subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
The brain capacity is not enough. The reason why the memory must be cleared every year. When the two of them erased Index's memory, they saw Index's very sad expression. Even if she died, she didn't want to forget her friends. Such words deeply hurt the hearts of both of them. In order to prevent Index from experiencing such pain again, they simply decided not to let Index have too much nostalgia for this world. If there are no overly happy memories, there will be no sadness when they part. Therefore, they began to hunt Index. From a year ago until today, after listening to the two people's words, Su Mo directly showed a look of looking at the strange. "Are you two idiots?" he asked directly. Hearing this, Style instantly became furious. "What do you know? I obviously want to protect her, but I have to hurt her. Every day, I hunt that child. All the suffering she suffers, we see it in our eyes, and my heart is bleeding. Having to endure all the pain is more painful than killing me. What do you know as an outsider?" Style's eyes were very sad. Seeing the suffering Index suffered, he was more painful than anyone else. Because of this, he did not allow anyone to evaluate their awareness so hastily. However, Su Mo is not someone who can be easily persuaded. Because you are afraid of the pain of separation, you just destroy the initial happiness? In that case, you will still be hungry even if you are full, so you don't eat? Chapter 121, People will die sooner or later. Instead of facing the pain of death, why not just commit suicide now? Su Mo shook his head. He refuted with sharp words. "Your cowardly ideas are definitely not the path people should choose. If you really respect Index and let her choose for herself, I believe she will never choose to let you do this." As soon as these words came out, Style and Kanzaki Kaori fell silent. They have always acted according to their own understanding. It seems that they have never asked Index what kind of life she wants. Just when the two of them began to doubt themselves, another sentence from Su Mo shocked them completely. "Even if you leave this point aside, you are complete idiots." Su Mo sneered and pointed out a fact. The idea that memory will expand the brain capacity is simply a lie to deceive children. The memory partition of the human brain is not the same as the partition that stores information. Even for people with perfect memory, there is no such thing as memory expanding the brain capacity. Hearing Su Mo's words, Style and Kamasaki Kaori were completely stunned. "What did you say?" Style shouted in disbelief. For people with perfect memory, the brain capacity will not be expanded at all? But the Supreme Bishop did tell us so at the time. Kamazaki Kaori's tone was a little hesitant. "I don't care what your information source is," Su Mo said bluntly. "Facts are facts. If for a person with full memory ability, 15% of the brain capacity can only store 1 year's memory, then Index's brain can only store 7 years of memory at most. According to this calculation, doesn't it mean that a person with full memory ability can only live to the age of 7? But in fact, the age when Index memorized the magic book and accepted the memory clearing should be after this, right?" Hearing Su Mo's question, Kanzaki Kaori thought about it and nodded. Indeed, Index was 10 years old when she read the original magic book. If 15% of the brain capacity can only store 1 year's memory, then, at the age of 10, the memories in Index's mind should have burst her brain. But Index didn't have any problems at that time. Hearing this, Su Mo added, "People with perfect memory are not rare in the world. There are examples of people who have lived to be over 100 years old, and it's easy to find them. What you said about memory bursting the brain capacity does not exist at all. The perfect memory ability is actually just a special physique. It is not a superpower, nor a magical talent. It is simply a special physique. It is not rare in the world, and you can find the corresponding information as long as you are willing." After hearing what Su Mo said, the expression of Kamaju Kaori, who had already believed at 80%, immediately became gloomy. "If it is really the same as you said, then the information given to us by the Supreme Bishop is completely wrong. She immediately realized that they might have been deceived, but Style still refused to believe it. If there is really no such thing as memory bursting the brain, how do you explain the pain Index suffers every year? Every time the memory is about to be cleaned, Index will be in so much pain that she will faint. It is because of this performance that Style has been convinced by the Supreme Bishop's statement for a long time. If what Su Mo said is true, how do you explain Index's situation? Could it be that, thinking of a certain possibility, Style's face darkened? It should be the Supreme Bishop who did something to Index's body. Kenzaki Kori also thought of this. That female vixen. Style gritted his teeth and said, if it was someone else, he might still doubt it. But if it was Laura Stewart, that female vixen, she would really do such a thing. After cursing angrily, Style looked at Kanzaki blankly. 3.0 If everything is the conspiracy of the Supreme Bishop, then we have been kept in the dark all the time. That child, doesn't it need to have his memory cleared at all? He realized that what he did was completely harmful to Index. It should be. Su Mo interrupted at this time. Since Index is an important weapon of your British Puritan Church, your superiors must have taken some measures to control this weapon. Compared to other methods, there is nothing better than clearing memories every year to eliminate safety hazards, right? He directly pointed out the British Puritan Church's plan. After hearing this, Kenzaki Kaori and Style were more convinced. This is indeed something that the Supreme Bishop can do. Instead, if it weren't for this, it would be unreasonable for the Supreme Bishop to let Index escape. The fact that the female vixen was able to let go with peace of mind must be because she had already gained control of Index through some means. And this means the annual memory cleansing. After realizing that their actions were the source of Index's pain, Kamasaki Kaori and Style both showed very sad expressions. Their eyes were filled with unspeakable regret. 117 newcomer Su Mo, creating life after learning the truth from Su Mo, Kamasaki Kaori, and Style were very depressed. After being depressed, they proposed to return to the British Puritan Church to confirm it, although they had roughly believed Su Mo's words. But if they did not confirm it thoroughly, they would still be unwilling. After thinking about it, Su Mo agreed to their request. Let the two go. It's better to let them give up, and it will be easier to deal with them in the future. Before leaving, Kamasaki Kaori hesitated for a while, but couldn't help asking. I heard that the superpowers in Academy City only have one ability. Your power should be the power to control gravity and gravitation. Why can you directly interfere with space before? Kamasaki Kaori was very puzzled about this. It was because she knew that the other party only had one superpower that she was so careless at that time. So much so that she crashed into the ground with all her strength without noticing. It was only thanks to the bonus of the stigmata that she did not suffer a serious fracture. If she had known this earlier, she would have taken precautions. She might have been injured, but she would not have lost her combat effectiveness directly. Su Mo was a little surprised to hear what Kamasaki Kaori said. You actually know about gravity and gravitation? Kamasaki Kaori looked a little embarrassed and annoyed when he said that. Even if I'm a magician and don't understand science, I still know about gravity. She's not stupid. Well, it seems that you are not as stupid as I thought. Su Mo nodded and then explained casually. The essence of gravity is the distortion of space-time. Conversely, it is not too difficult to use gravity to cause the distortion of space-time. Unfortunately, it seems that it is still unlikely to create a wormhole. I don't know if it is because the explanation of general relativity is not complete enough, or if we should use the graviton of quantum mechanics to think about the problem at this time. Su Mo explained casually, and his attention shifted to other directions. Kamazaki Kaori was confused. She didn't understand those scientific theories, but she finally understood a little. That is, the power of interfering with space seems to be a way to use gravity. Although it was very surprising that science could connect these two unrelated forces together. But after confirming that the other party really only knew one power, Kamasaki Kaori was relieved. A single power is easy to be restrained. Chapter 122, when we meet next time. I will never lose again. Wait. The other party is the benefactor who exposed the conspiracy. It seems that I have no reason to be hostile to him. She realized this only then. Soon, Kanzaki Kaori and style disappeared in front of her. Although it would only take 2 days to go back and forth to the British Puritan Church. But because it is now approaching the day when Index needs to cleanse her memory, they must hurry up and go back quickly. At this time, Index in the living room also listened to the recording on Su Mo's mobile phone and understood the truth. The enemy who has been chasing her all the time turned out to be her companion. After learning this, Index was completely confused. It took a lot of effort to understand this. Another thing, like a dark cloud, shrouded her heart. The two of them have left. Su Mo walked into the living room and said to Index. Then, he saw the always heartless silver-haired nun running directly over. Hug him. The silver-haired nun buried her head in Su Mo's chest and said with a slightly crying tone, I don't want to forget Su Mo. I don't want to cleanse my memory, compared to the thoughts of the two bad guys chasing her. Kanzaki Kaori. What Index cares more about is that the day when she must cleanse her memory is coming. That is to say, all the memories of the past year, including the memories between her and Su Mo, they will all be washed away. She will forget everything. She doesn't want to forget everything, especially Su Mo, the only one who treats her so well. Seeing Index's look, Su Mo laughed dumbly. Even if she looks heartless, she is just a girl after all. I didn't expect Index to be afraid of something. Bang! A hand knife hit Index's head. Su Mo said with a firm tone, Don't worry, I'm here, and I will never let you lose your memory. Really? Hearing this, Index opened her eyes in disbelief. She thought this was something she couldn't escape. How come there is still a chance to turn things around if I listen to Su Mo? Of course it's true. When have I ever lied to you? Su Mo said there was absolutely no problem. Yeah. Hearing this, Index was finally relieved. She nodded heavily and gave Su Mo a big smile. I believe in Su Mo. Thank you for your trust, Miss Nun. Su Mo yawned and looked at the time. It's late. You should go to bed. Then, he picked up the little nun and pushed her into the guest room. After Index fell into a deep sleep, Su Mo closed his eyes on the bed, came to the misty space, opened his eyes. It was the familiar white mist. Su Mo walked forward with ease. Soon, he arrived at the square. The moment he walked out of the mist, he saw several Su Mos he had seen in the square, all surrounding a newcomer Su Mo who looked a little strange, wearing military uniforms and with a pocket watch on his waist, as if they were discussing something. Is there a newcomer here? Su Mo from the Magical Index world asked curiously. Although he was also a newcomer who had just joined, he was familiar with this process. Without waiting for his own answer from other worlds, Su Mo from the Magical Index world directly reached out and put his hand on the shoulder of Su Mo. Soon, he shared his power with him. The increase in physical and mental strength is not big. There is no magic power, spiritual power, or anything. After feeling it carefully, he felt that the increase in his body was negligible. It was just a little stronger than a normal person. His spirit was much stronger than that of an ordinary person, but it was still nothing compared to the mental power he already had. Could it be an ordinary person? Just as he was thinking this, suddenly he noticed some extra knowledge in his brain. Is this alchemy? Su Mo from the Magical Index world finally discovered the change. Soon, he deduced the world where the newcomer was. One is all is one. Is this the world of Fullmetal Alchemist? That's right. Su Mo from the original world nodded. His expression was very happy. I just tricked Vinny into the team and was about to deal with the Wind Dragon first. I didn't expect such good news to appear. With the knowledge and experience of newcomer alchemy, I am now a master of alchemy. With this identity, it will be much more convenient to communicate with Sucrose and Albedo than before. Hearing what Su Mo from the original world said, the newcomer Su Mo, that is Su Mo from the Fullmetal Alchemist world, nodded. The basics of alchemy in Teyvat are no different from the alchemy here. It's nothing more than understanding, decomposition, and reconstruction. However, I am good at physics and chemistry. I only know a little about biorefining. Whether it is the biological alchemy that Sucrose is good at or the creation method that Albedo is good at, they all involve knowledge in the field of life. If you can obtain their research results, then the application of our alchemy can reach a very wide range. Speaking of the alchemy of the original God world, Su Mo of the Full Metal Alchemist world also showed a yearning look. He has been in the world of Full Metal Alchemist for a long time. Even if he has obtained the power of other worlds, he is still more accustomed to using his own alchemy. As for the creation method of the original God world, he really cares about it. Creating life is an absolute taboo in his world. In a world where human alchemy is punished, creating life is not allowed at all. Su Mo of the Full Metal Alchemist world did not dare to try it. If he is not careful and overdoes it, it would be terrible to be swallowed by the guy named Truth behind the door. Hearing the conversation between the two, Su Mo of the fairy tale world also had a bit of excitement on his face. If we can obtain the knowledge of biological alchemy and the method of creation, doesn't that mean that we can directly use alchemy to create life? Seeing them like this, Su Mo of the earthly wrong world asked doubtfully, "Why are you so excited? Creating life does sound very powerful, but it doesn't make much sense. It's not that easy to create a life stronger than yourself. And creating a life weaker than yourself doesn't make much sense. Just like the dungeon in his world. Monsters are born in the dungeon every day, but those monsters are not that strong." Hearing this, Su Mo of the Magical Index world shook his head and refuted. "That can't be said. The symbolic significance of creating life is already great enough. If I really learn this alchemy, I can construct the corresponding ritual through the ritual of creating life and obtain some of the power of God. But this is my opinion. I don't know why they are so happy." Su Mo of the Magical Index world shook his head, looking at the other two Su Mo curiously. "Is there any need to say this?" Su Mo of the Fairy Tale World asked back. Chapter 123, being able to create life means, he paused deliberately. "It means we can directly create living Pokémon." Su Mo from the original God world continued. "A word awakens the dreamer. 118 Gate of Truth, Philosopher's Stone, what? There is this operation." Su Mo from the world of Jitsuo and the world of Magical Index realized this. Yes, they can use receiving magic to transform into Pokémon, and they know the body structure of Pokémon very well. If they really learn the method of creation, they can directly create real Pokémon in their own world. If you create a Pikachu and fight Misaka Makoto, Su Mo from the world of Magical Index touched his chin and found it very interesting. The duel between Pika Pika and Palipali. It's interesting no matter how you look at it. If I can create a Jigglypuff, I can directly open a clinic. Su Mo from the world of Jitsuo was also very excited. The strength of the Pokémon may not be as good as Su Mo, but when it comes to their respective skills, they have their own merits, and there are many very practical skills. If you can create medical Pokémon such as Chansey and Happiny, you can directly open a medical facility in the future, specialized in restoring injuries for adventurers. It will definitely be popular in Oreo. By then, won't you be able to make money lying down? Hearing what the two said, Su Mo from the original world chuckled. "Have you two forgotten? Su Mo from the elf world has already gone to capture the mythical beast. If his plan succeeds, then we can even create the 3 sacred birds. Even Rayquaza is not impossible. And in addition to Pokemon, you can even create creatures on my side. For example, the wind of no form, the frost tree, or Tevelin. Alchemy is the ability to transform knowledge into power as long as it is sufficient. If they can really master the method of creating life, they can completely create creatures from different worlds into their world. These creatures may not be as powerful as Su Mo, but if a certain number of them are created, it is even possible to create a Pokemon army or even a mythical beast army. Even for the current Su Mo, such a team is a force that can completely help. Wait until I defeat the Black Dragon Aculinoria and thoroughly study his body structure. By then, maybe we can each have a black dragon, which is really awesome." The Su Mo of the fairy tale world couldn't help but imagine the arrival of this day. After the fantasy, fairy tale Su Mo, Magic Index Su Mo, Dicuo Su Mo, Full Metal Su Mo. The 4 of them put their hands on the shoulders of Genshin. "Su Mo, come on. This big thing is up to you. The organization trusts you very much, so work harder. If it doesn't work, you can consider selling your body to Sucrose. We can forgive you." They looked like they were entrusted with an important task. The Su Mo of the Genshin world complained helplessly. It's okay to give it to me, but selling your body is a problem. Don't think that I won't find out if you sneak in like this. Don't worry about the details. Su Mo from the fairy tale world patted his shoulder. Wait! At this time, Su Mo from the Magic Index world seemed to remember something. He spoke immediately. Compared to things like biotransformation, the most important thing in the Fullmetal Alchemy world is not this power. Su Mo from the Magic Index world looked at himself in the Fullmetal Alchemy world with burning eyes. The Gate of Truth. This is a good thing that can be exchanged for all knowledge. The Fullmetal Alchemy world follows the rule of equivalent exchange. People who have used human body transmutation and come into contact with this taboo can glimpse their own Gate of Truth. From then on, even if you don't use the transmutation array, you can use alchemy by putting your hands together. And most importantly, the truth is contained inside the Gate of Truth. It contains all knowledge and the entire universe. Although it is impossible to have knowledge from another world, however, all the knowledge in a single world where the user lives should be available. And this endless knowledge can be exchanged for as long as enough price is paid. Edward, the protagonist in the original work, it is because he has seen the truth and understood part of the knowledge. That is why he can become a national alchemist at such a young age. Not only because of his outstanding talent, but also because when he was undergoing human body refining as a child, the Gate of Truth took away his body and gave him a lot of knowledge. As long as enough price is paid, it is possible to obtain enough knowledge. This way is a precious thing that is hard to come by for both magicians and alchemists. In the world of Fullmetal Alchemist, it is the standard for alchemists who have seen the Gate of Truth. Su Mo in the world of Magical Index does not know where the limit of truth is, but at least it is certain that it is definitely a power that can rival the world level. Even the villain in the bottle, the boss behind the world of steel, can sacrifice a country's people. Come and open the pupil of heaven and the door of earth, thus gaining power comparable to that of a god. You can even rub the sun with your bare hands, although it is only an experienced version. However, without the protagonist and his party, the plot of the villain in the bottle would have been successful. Just access to planetary level truth. You can master this level of power. If you go further and gain more knowledge in exchange, perhaps it can give people the power to rival the devil. At least, from the perspective of Su Mo in the Forbidden World, the Door of Truth is definitely a shortcut for alchemists to reach a higher realm. Compared to something like Pokémon, this is the biggest treasure in the steel-making world that cannot be ignored. I heard Su Mo's thoughts in the Forbidden World. Su Mo from the Steel world spread his hands. I know what you mean, but the problem is that if you want to gain enough knowledge, you must pay a sufficient price. The price of admission to the Gates of Truth is the Philosopher's Stone. Is it possible that you also plan to let me create a national formation, sacrifice everyone into the Philosopher's Stone, and then gain power? The acquisition of knowledge is not free. The price required for the Door of Truth is the Philosopher's Stone. The raw material used to make the Philosopher's Stone is the human soul. No matter how mad Su Mo was, there is no way to sacrifice tens or hundreds of millions of people. Yes, it was like a basin of cold water being poured down. Su Mo's enthusiasm in the Forbidden World was immediately extinguished. Knowledge of the Gates of Truth is not free. If you want the knowledge in the Gate of Truth for free, you will most likely pay a heavy price. He didn't want to try this. However, Su Mo in the Forbidden World does not intend to give up this route. As long as you obtain enough Philosopher's Stone, you can obtain a corresponding level of knowledge as a price. He pondered for a while. But how do we get enough Philosopher's Stones? Here is side of things. Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, came over and said, I remember that in my world, someone seemed to have refined the Philosopher's Stone. Chapter 124. However, on the day it was refined, it was destroyed due to the god's prank. After that day, no pharmacist has ever refined the Philosopher's Stone. Despite his ability to develop, he also chose blendings suitable for becoming a pharmacist. However, Su Mo felt that if he wanted to reach the level of being able to refine the Philosopher's Stone in this profession through practice, maybe it will take decades. By then, maybe this power won't be needed. Pity. Hearing Su Mo from the earthly world, Su Mo from the forbidden world shook his head regretfully. However, with our current strength, if we want to obtain more knowledge, the amount of Philosopher's Stone required is not enough. Su Mo now has power comparable to that of a god. If you want to go further, the knowledge required is definitely not something that can be achieved with just a little bit of the Philosopher's Stone. Therefore, even if the Philosopher's Stone remains in the wrong world, it doesn't make much sense. At this time, on the side, Su Mo from the fairy tale world discovered something suspicious, etc. He looked at Su Mo in the wrong world and asked, "You, Orario's family, shouldn't use human souls to refine the Philosopher's Stone, right?" "Of course not." Su Mo, who was in a different world, immediately shook his head. "This is something absolutely forbidden by the gods. Even if a pharmacist secretly uses human souls, he would never dare to show it to the gods. With the eyesight of a god, one can tell at a glance whether it was made by a human soul, and if the composition of the Philosopher's Stone is human soul. When other gods hear this, they will never remain indifferent." He immediately denied fairy tale Su Mo's suspicion. Hear him say that. Su Mo from the fairy tale world immediately became energetic. "According to your description, the effect of the Philosopher's Stone should be the same. If we say that the Philosopher's Stone in the earthly world does not require human souls to refine it, perhaps we can also find a way to refine the Philosopher's Stone without the need for human souls. If we find this method, it will be possible to mass-produce the Philosopher's Stone." 119 crazy thoughts that make sense. Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, nodded. According to legend, the pharmacist who refined the Philosopher's Stone here also possesses the ability to develop mysteriously. The ability to develop mystery is very rare. It is said to be the power that can touch the secrets of the power of gods. If you just infer based on skills, the most critical skills for the pharmacist who created the Philosopher's Stone in the Dicuo world are reconciliation and mystery. Regarding reconciliation, Su Mo from Dicuo world had already chosen and owned it when he was promoted to LV3. And for mystery, speaking of which, let alone touching the mystery of the god's power, we have already mastered the god's power, Su Mo from the fairy tale world said. If we say that developing abilities, mystery, is part of exploring the power of gods as a human being, Su Mo, who became the god killer, already had the power of many gods. It can be said to be a crushing from top to bottom. It's a pity that the power we control has nothing to do with alchemy. Su Mo from the forbidden world shook his head. There are specialties in the art industry. The scope of application varies greatly between different powers. Even if they obtained the power of gods, they did not master the power related to alchemy. It is not helpful in refining the Philosopher's Stone. Now, they have the technology to refine the Philosopher's Stone. There is only one that Su Mo from the steelmaking world has. It is still the kind of formation that must use human souls as the material. That's true. 247 Su Mo from the fairy tale world nodded. Then, the words changed. However, the newcomer's knowledge about the Philosopher's Stone should be enough. I think that if you want to refine a large amount of Philosopher's Stone, the problem is not about techniques and formulas. The key should be the selection of raw materials. Su Mo from the fairy tale world put forward his own opinion. Just create the Philosopher's Stone. It was never a problem for Su Mo. There were not many scum who deserved to go to hell. The real difficulty is how to manufacture in large quantities. In the final analysis, if you want to manufacture the Philosopher's Stone in large quantities, you still need a lot of raw materials. Naturally, they would not be able to use the forging formation that Su Mo of the steel refining world mastered, using human souls as raw materials. However, if alternative raw materials can be found, maybe it could be much simpler. For example, if the Philosopher's Stone could be extracted from animals such as pigs, sheep, and cows, wouldn't it be possible to collect the Philosopher's Stone by opening a slaughterhouse? Su Mo from the fairy tale world put forward his own conjecture. After being refined into the Philosopher's Stone, the animal meat can also be sold. Wouldn't this kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Sounds reasonable. Su Mo from the forbidden world agreed. The Philosopher's Stone, the fifth element, the elixir of immortality, turning stone into gold. Although there are so many theories, in the final analysis, the Philosopher's Stone is nothing more than the crystallization of the spiritual embodiment. For ordinary magicians, the Philosopher's Stone may be very mysterious, but for Su Mo now, it is just a rarer prop. The same is true for the gods of the earthly world. Human souls are rich in spiritual elements and can be refined into Philosopher's Stones. There is no reason why animals can't. Su Mo of the Magic Index world deduced this according to the principle. He also has a certain degree of understanding of the Philosopher's Stone. However, after hearing their conjectures, Su Mo of the Full Metal Alchemist world immediately shook his head. Theoretically, what you said is correct. In fact, the military has also tried to use animals to extract the Philosopher's Stone. However, unfortunately, the basic strength of the animal's soul seems to be insufficient. No matter how you try, no matter how many you stack, you can't extract the Philosopher's Stone at all. Su Mo of the Full Metal Alchemist world also felt very sorry. If animals such as pigs can extract the Philosopher's Stone, the boss behind the scenes, the little man in the bottle, doesn't need to spend hundreds of years to plot. There is no need to build a national refining array. Just keep raising pigs for hundreds of years, and you can probably get enough Philosopher's Stone. And, by the way, you can use pork to benefit society. There is no need to become a villain. Unfortunately, this assumption is not true. He has read a lot of military information and has also studied it himself. Whether it is birds, beasts, or fish on the seabed, there is no way to extract Philosopher's Stone. He guessed that the mental strength was not up to standard and did not meet the minimum standard for refining Philosopher's Stone. Does the soul strength of ordinary animals not meet the standard? Su Mo in the original world heard the words of the newcomer. He thought hard for a while, and then suddenly had an idea. Do you think that the soul of Pokémon can meet the standard? Most Pokémon are quite intelligent. The IQ of many Pokémon is higher than that of humans. Ordinary animals are simply not comparable to Pokémon. If so speculated, the soul of a Pokémon should not be much different from that of a human being and can reach the standard of refining the Philosopher's Stone. But, after hearing what he said, Su Mo from the fairy tale world immediately complained. Are you a devil? You actually use Pokémon to refine the Philosopher's Stone? If Su Mo from the elf world heard you say this, you'd be finished. Su Mo from the Magical Index world also complained. Although Pokémon are animals, their intelligence is no less than that of humans. They want to massacre Pokémon on a large scale to refine the Philosopher's Stone. Chapter 125 for people from other worlds, it may not be a big deal. But in the Pokémon world, it is the #1 villain. Even the evil organization Team Rocket, their evilness is nothing compared to this idea. It's just a guess. Su Mo from the original world waved his hands. I didn't say I really want to do it. Of course, he was not so crazy. He just simply thought that the quality of Pokémon might meet the requirements. Wait! At this time, Su Mo from the Magic Index world remembered something. Speaking of creatures with soul strength much higher than that of ordinary animals, and there are not a lot of them thinking of this, he stared at Su Mo from the Earth world. Don't you have a lot of this kind of thing there? The monsters in the dungeon. Although the intelligence of the monsters in the dungeon world may not be as good as Pokémon, but they're definitely far above ordinary animals. And there are so many of them, and a lot of them are refreshed every day. If the monsters in the dungeon can be used to refine the Philosopher's Stone, that is simply having an endless supply of raw materials. This idea is much better than the one of Pokémon, whether in terms of quantity or psychological acceptance. It is not a bad thing to refine the monsters of the earthly world into Philosopher's Stone. Hearing Su Mo of the Magical Index world say this, Su Mo of the earthly world pondered for a while and showed a surprised expression. I would have forgotten if you hadn't said it. It is really possible. The monsters of the earthly world do not have any advanced wisdom, except for the heretics, and they do not have the awareness of being a life. However, their combat skills and intelligence are not bad, far above ordinary animals. If the mental strength of these monsters can be refined into Philosopher's Stone, with the huge number of monsters in the dungeon, there is no need to worry about the problem of insufficient raw materials. I can use the Philosopher's Stone to exchange for the corresponding knowledge, but I still need to try to verify it. If you don't try, you can't be sure whether those monsters can really be used as materials. Moreover, the energy for the monsters in the dungeon comes from the magic stone. Maybe even the monsters themselves are not needed. The magic stone alone can be used as a material to refine the Philosopher's Stone. If it is true, then he has a very stable shortcut to become stronger. His envy, seeing that Su Mo in the world of Dicuo has found a feasible way. Su Mo in the world of fairy tale could not help but show an expression of envy and jealousy. If I can have such a convenient way to obtain the Philosopher's Stone here, how great it would be. There is no need to continue learning magic. By exchanging knowledge with the Gate of Truth every day, you can reach the abyss of the magic path. Wouldn't it be much easier than studying magic every day? Although there are monsters in his world, but the number of monsters is not particularly large. There is no way to refresh like the monsters in the dungeon. In terms of the richness of resources, it is incomparable to the monsters in the dungeon. 120 The laws of the magic index. Can they control the magic of fairy tale? Hearing the envious words of Su Mo in the world of fairy tale. Su Mo in the world of magic index looked at him speechlessly. You are still relatively good over there. At least there are some monsters, demons, and so on. And there are also dragons. My side is worse than yours. Basically, all of them are humans, and there is no material for the Philosopher's Stone. It is the nature of human beings to take pleasure in other people's misfortunes. Hearing Su Mo from the magical index world say this, fairy tale Su Mo immediately felt a little better. Fortunately, he is not the worst. However, he changed his mind. Wait, immediately found something wrong. You don't have the material for the Philosopher's Stone, but you have 103,000 magic books. Isn't this still a cheating player? He immediately remembered that the resources in this guy's world of magical index world are definitely not small. Suddenly, Su Mo from the fairy tale world was a little tearful. They all said that they rely on themselves. But no matter how you look at it, I am the only one who practices seriously. The other Su Mo are all cheating players. However, with the physique of a god slayer, it seems that the speed of learning magic is also a bit fast. Could it be that I am also a cheater? Oh, then it's okay. Hey, speaking of 103,000 magic books, how's your progress? Su Mo from the earthly world heard Su Mo from fairy tale mention the magic books. He immediately became interested. According to their respective plans after the last meeting, Su Mo from the magic index world should have started to trap the pornographic book. No. Index. If you can get 103,000 magic books, you will definitely be able to make a big improvement. Even if you can only read a dozen books at the beginning. It is also good for the accumulation of magic knowledge. The other Su Mos also looked over curiously. Of course, I have already done it here. Su Mo from the Magic Index world roughly talked about his experience here. Now, Style and Kanzaki Kaori have gone back to settle accounts with Laura. When the time comes, we can solve the collar in Index's body and the long-distance control spiritual equipment, and Index's problem will be basically solved. It seems that everything is going well on your side. Su Mo in the earthly world was a little surprised. Not only Index, but also got the right seed of God's art from the Roman Orthodox Church. It's incredible. The Pope is willing to give even this art. The right seed of God's art is not some common magic. It is the secret of the Roman Orthodox Church. The Pope is willing to give even this. Isn't he afraid of cultivating another uncontrollable right seed of God? I was a little confused at first. Su Mo in the magical index world pondered for a while and analyzed. According to the current Pope's consistent character, even if he wants 103,000 magic books, he will never agree to my conditions. At most, he can only give me one of the spells after I complete the task. It's not his style to send the reward directly before the task is completed. I guess it's not the Pope who gave me the spell of God's right seed, but right fire himself. Only he would despise the spell of God's right seat so much. Although he didn't see what happened in the Vatican Cathedral, but with his understanding of the Roman Orthodox Church, Su Mo quickly analyzed who decided to give him the spell. It must be right fire. The others don't have such a big hand. Indeed, Su Mo in the fairy tale world nodded. The only one who can be so indifferent to the spell of God's right seat is right fire. Compared to us, he's a natural cheater, right fire, who was born with enough power to save the world. The scale of power in his body is even higher than that of Su Mo now. However, the fire of the right has no ability to exert the power in its body. So, it had a plan behind the scenes, want to take the initiative to provoke the Third World War. Unfortunately, this cheater encountered more cheaters. Su Mo from the original world side, whether it is Kamijutoma, Alistair, Orals, or the later demons. There are as many cheaters as you want in the world of Magical Index. The fire of the right was still scary in the early stage. Chapter 126 in the later period, they can only be whipped out as a high-speed spinning top. Everyone relax. Su Mo of the Dicuo world clapped his hands. Although we are not cheaters, we must prove that we can achieve cheaters through our efforts. I don't believe that we can't solve a cheater with our own strength. With hard work, you can also defeat a genius. Work hard. Su Mo of the fairy tale world glanced at himself in other worlds. You all have cheats. However, in reality, they did not rely on others. Even cheating is all done by themselves. So, it seems that there is nothing wrong with saying that you work hard. I agree. We must defeat those cheaters through our own efforts. Su Mo of the fairy tale world immediately convinced himself. +1. Second, the other two Su Mo immediately applauded and agreed. Su Mo never cheats. Speaking of which, I care more about the spells of the right seed of God than the fire of the right. Su Mo of the earthly world spoke again. Compared to the difficulty of learning, the more important thing about these spells is the compatibility. Even if we have the talent to learn any power system, there should be no way to learn these spells without obstacles. The power system and the special spells themselves are not the same. Su Mo may be able to learn a magic quickly, but it is difficult to directly learn those magics that require blood power. These things with strict prerequisites are almost unavoidable. The effects of several spells of the right seed of God are pretty good. Su Mo really wants to have them all, but reality is not so convenient. I have learned about these spells in detail. Su Mo of the Magic Index world spoke. The conditions required for the 4 spells are indeed difficult to bypass. And now I seem to only have one spell that meets the conditions. 0. Please give me flowers. 0. The other compatibilities are not enough. And have you forgotten one thing? At this point, he looked at Su Mo from another world. To use the angel spell, you must suppress your original sin to the lowest level. But in this case, you will lose the qualification to use ordinary magic. Do you think it's worth giving up other magic just for a god's right seat spell? According to the setting of the Magical Index world, humans cannot use angel spells, and angels cannot use human magic. The god's right seat is qualified to use angel spells only after using special spells to suppress his original sin. So, except for the water in the back, who can be exempted from punishment, the other god's right seats cannot use ordinary people's magic. The question raised by Su Mo in the Magical Index seems to be worth considering. It's just that the rules of your world of Magical Index don't apply to our fairy tale world, right? Su Mo of the fairy tale world spread his hands. I haven't heard that the magic here cannot be used without original sin. Even if it's angel magic, ordinary humans here can use it. The magic of the fairy tale world is not restricted by the Magical Index world. Therefore, even if the original sin is eliminated, it will not affect the use of magic in the fairy tale world. The same is true for the power of the God Slayer world and the alchemy of the Full Metal Alchemist world. This drawback of the god's right seat technique has no effect on them at all. It seems so. Su Mo of the Magical Index world only then realized this. It seems that the magic of our world must follow the restrictions. People who eliminate original sin cannot use ordinary magic. From this point of view, the loss is not great. At this time, Su Mo of the earthly wrong world complained, and in the final analysis, you don't know a few ordinary magics at all. Su Mo of the Magical Index world knows a lot of magic theory. But when it comes to magic, not many people know it. Moreover, basically the powers of the fairy tale world and the God Slayer have corresponding higher level substitutes. The ordinary magic that Su Mo learned in the Magic Index. It is not very useful, even if it cannot be used because of this. It seems that there is no special loss. When we in the God Slayer world go to kill a few angels, we don't need to eliminate the original sin at all, and we can use those spells. Su Mo in the Earth Wrong world added. Eliminating the original sin is just to obtain the qualification to use the angel spell. If you can master the power of the angel, doesn't that mean that you have the power to use the power of the angel? There is no need to eliminate the original sin. It will not be because of this that you can't use ordinary magic. In summary, this disadvantage is almost equivalent to nothing for Su Mo. So, don't worry about it at all. Compared with this disadvantage that can be eliminated quickly, Su Mo in the Earth Wrong world is more concerned about another point. Which technique is suitable for us now? Just 121 Light Execution Technique. It is the light execution technique of the left land. Su Mo from the Magical Index world did not keep anyone in suspense and said directly, "Our current physique does not seem to have the properties of the 4 archangels at all. Whether it is Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, or Uriel, we do not have the corresponding affinity. Under normal circumstances, we are actually not qualified to use the rituals of God's right seat. This is the same as the speculation of the Pope and the right fire. Although Su Mo can accommodate various power systems, but in terms of specific bloodlines and affinity, he actually has no advantages. Originally, he could not use any of the rituals of God's right seat. However, the light execution ritual of the left land is slightly different. 247, Su Mo of the Magical Index world patiently explained. This spell itself is a magic based on the legend of the execution of the Son of God. According to the teachings of Christianity, mortals have no way to kill God. God is above the tree of life, and humans are below. Things that are in the lower order cannot harm the superior. However, in the New Testament, the Son of God actually died at the hands of an ordinary Roman soldier. That is to say, at this time, the relationship between man and God was reversed. The position of God, who was originally at the top of the tree of life, was reversed at this moment. The order of relationship that should have been God above and man below has changed. It has become man above and God below. Based on this legend, the left land created magic that can change the order of priority. That is the execution spell of light. And the composition of this spell has nothing to do with the angel Raphael, although it is also an angel spell. But the spell created by the left land is different from the other right seats of God. It is not constructed according to the legend related to angels. Instead, the technique is constructed according to the deeds of the Son of God. This also leads to the fact that this technique does not actually require the compatibility of the angel Raphael. Although Su Mo does not have the compatibility of the angel Raphael, but we have the compatibility of killing gods. The Su Mo of the fairy tale world immediately understood what Su Mo of Magic Index meant. If you can obtain the qualification to use this technique through the compatibility of the God Slayer's physique, it is indeed perfect. Originally, the prototype of the light execution technique is the death of the Son of God, which is a symbol of the meaning of humans killing gods. At this point, Chapter 127 no one is more qualified to use this technique than Su Mo, the God Killer. God killing, he was very skilled at it. Exactly. Su Mo from the Forbidden World nodded. With the nature of the God Slayer, we can directly use the light execution technique. And with our power, the effect should be stronger than that of the left land. That's not bad. Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, touched his chin and was quite satisfied with this. The light punishment technique, although Zuofangzi is a bit awkward to use, it is not an exaggeration to say that it is the best at God's right seat. But as an auxiliary skill, this technique is simply a divine assist. The light punishment technique is a technique that manipulates the order of strength and weakness. In front of it, strength and weakness will lose their original meaning. According to common reason, the blade of a knife is stronger than human skin. Therefore, the blade can easily cut through human flesh. But if the light punishment technique is used, the order is adjusted. Let the blade of the knife be on the bottom and the human skin on top. Then, Even a swordsman would never be able to harm a baby's skin with a blade. The relationship between strength and weakness can be reversed in an instant. It can be said that it is an excellent auxiliary attack technique. Although, because Zhuangland himself was too weak, he didn't have a very good record. However, the power displayed by this technique is still very impressive. What if, when Kanzaki Kaori fights Archangel Gabriel, there is a light execution technique assisting from the side? Add a buff 0 of saints on top, angels on the bottom, Kanzaki might be able to directly suppress the incomplete Gabriel. After all, restraint is greater than the sky, special attack on the sun gods. In the final analysis, the light punishment technique is not suitable for direct attack. Instead, it should be used as an auxiliary. An assistant responsible for adding buff to the left side rush forward to fight the protagonist head-on. It would be strange not to be defeated on the spot. With this technique, it's much easier for me. Su Mo in the fairy tale world is very satisfied with this power. Whether you're fighting demons or dragons, special attacks are useful. The world on fairy tale side, not to mention the devil. Dragons generally have a considerable degree of magic resistance. In the original work, even the Holy 10 wizards were unable to cause harm to an ordinary dragon. Only Dragon Slayer wizards who have practiced dragon-slaying magic can ignore this magic resistance and cause damage to dragons. Su Mo was naturally not worried about those ordinary dragons. With the power of the God Slayer, they can be killed easily. The problem is, the black dragon Awaken also has this level of magic resistance. Most magic is ineffective against him. If the power of the Godslayer's power is also reduced. 3.0, it's really a bit troublesome to deal with this strongest boss, so Tiga must be dealt with. But, now that you have the light punishment technique, you don't need to use your last trump card. Just use this technique to give yourself a special attack against dragons. Fairy Tale Su Mo felt that under these conditions, with the power of the God Killer, it would not be difficult to capture the Black Dragon. Well, since everyone has decided so, Su Mo from the Forbidden World heard everyone's words and nodded. Then I will construct this technique later. Although in terms of knowledge and power, every Su Mo has the same knowledge. However, familiarity with knowledge is different. Now that the choice has been made, naturally, Su Mo, who is in the Forbidden World, can construct the spell faster. 122 Indulgence meets a new person no one knows about in the Forbidden World. Su Mo tried to construct the light punishment technique. Su Mo from other worlds chatted on the sidelines. They all have a lot of curiosity about newcomers' alchemy. What if the refinement object is changed from humans to monsters? Su Mo from the Dicuo world asked Steel Refining, Su Mo, are there any adjustments needed to refine the formation? Normally, no. After thinking for a moment, Su Mo from the Steel world shook his head. However, to deal with monsters that are too strong, you need to defeat them before they can be refined. The connection between the soul of life and the body is relatively close, and it is not easy to extract it. For powerful monsters, it is impossible to simply refine them into the Philosopher's Stone. That's okay. Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, nodded. With his current strength, the monsters in the dungeon are no threat. In his eyes, these monsters have become as attractive as walking Philosopher's Stones. Hear their conversations. Su Mo from the fairy tale world interjected. Although the current formation can be used, if you have the ability to adjust it, you can also try to adjust it. I remember that although the Philosopher's Stone in the Steel world has no side effects, it should not be considered pure in terms of quality. The father of the protagonist, Edward, the little boy, is Hohenheim. He spent hundreds of years talking to the soul in the Philosopher's Stone within his body. It can be seen from this point. The Philosopher's Stone of the Steel world, in which the human soul has not completely dissipated 0.5. Just like the peanuts and peanut butter that are not completely crushed, it should actually be just a semi-finished product, although it can also be exchanged for equivalent value. However, the completed version of the Philosopher's Stone should obviously not have so many impurities. In fact, the failure of the little man in the bottle is largely due to the interference of these impurities. Fortunately, Su Mo did not have the idea of burying the Philosopher's Stone in his body like the little man in the bottle. So, this did not have much impact on him. Indeed, Su Mo in the Full Metal Alchemist world also agreed with this. The real Philosopher's Stone should only be the crystallization of pure spiritual elements and should not be mixed with emotions and consciousness. The Philosopher's Stone made by our alchemy array should be purified a little more. Although the current Philosopher's Stone already has the power to turn stone into gold. Various abilities are not much different from the pure version of the Philosopher's Stone. However, as an alchemist, he naturally still hopes to see a pure version of the Philosopher's Stone. That is the alchemist's long-cherished wish, second only to possessing all the truth. After they finish chatting here, not long after, Su Mo of the Magical Index world completed the construction of the art. At this time, he looked a little strange. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Su Mo of the Fairy Tale world asked worriedly. Could it be that the construction of the art failed? No. Su Mo of the Magical Index world shook his head. The art was constructed successfully. Why do you look like that? Su Mo of the Fairy Tale world was a little puzzled. I just finally know why Index hesitated and refused to say it when I asked her about the art of eliminating original sin. Su Mo of the Magical Index world looked a little funny. So that's it. The basic theoretical source of the art used by the Roman Orthodox Church to eliminate original sin is actually indulgence. Original sin is one of the most important concepts in Christianity. Christianity emphasizes that people all have original sin. Although the Son of God, Jesus, completed the atonement for mankind at the cost of being crucified. But because humans continue to violate God's will, the punishment for sin will continue to increase. Only by believing in Jesus can one atone for sins, become a righteous person at the last judgment, and ascend to heaven. So in the Middle Ages, in order to make money, the church developed a set of things called indulgences. Chapter 128, it is claimed that those faithful believers, the Virgin Mary, saints and others have accumulated a lot of good deeds. These good deeds are more than enough for them to go to heaven. The excess is stored by the church. If some sinners, their good deeds cannot offset their sins, and they want to go to heaven, they must spend money to buy indulgences so as to buy the extra good deeds and distribute them to themselves, so that they can also go to heaven. It can be said that this is a complete set of effective fraud methods. Because of faith, people want to go to heaven. However, the evaluation of good people and saints is too strict, so that most people need to spend money to buy indulgences to ensure that they can go to heaven after death. That's it. The church used this method to plunder quite amazing wealth. As for the considerable public resentment that aroused later, hundreds of years later, the system of indulgences was completely terminated. In modern society, the system of indulgences is completely a black history. In the view of Protestantism, the Catholic Church, even the Pope, is not qualified to store crimes and good deeds as currency. That is the right that only God and the Son of God have. Now, basically mentioning this, Christians will feel ashamed of this. Index is also a nun. Noticing that the basic principle of this technique is actually indulgence, she will naturally feel very embarrassed. This is the shame of believers. No wonder the right seed of God is not very obedient. Hearing Su Mo from the Magic Index world say this, Fairy Tale Su Mo chuckled. When the original sin was first eliminated, this technique was used. Even if the right seed of God is a devout believer after this technique, I guess they won't have too much respect for the Pope. After all, the issuance of indulgences was approved by the Pope. Realizing this wrong history, they naturally won't take the Pope too seriously. Stop talking nonsense. Let's share first. Su Mo from the original God world came over and patted his shoulder, shared the light execution technique that had just been constructed. Then, he was also slapped by Su Mo from the world of Chitsua, the world of Fullmetal Alchemist, and the world of Fairy Tale. After all, compared to Su Mo from the world of Magical Index, the original god Su Mo is closer to them. After sharing the spell, then they chatted for a while. Su Mo and others said goodbye and returned to their own worlds. The foggy space that was a bit lively before suddenly became empty. I don't know how long it has been. A slight fluctuation appeared in the foggy space. A young man wearing a coat of justice and looking very lazy appeared in the white fog. The moment he came to the foggy space, the young man's eyes suddenly became sharp, and his whole body exuded a sharp aura, like a sword that can cut the sky. No, maybe he can really cut the sky. Where is this? Touching the ordinary navy standard long sword at his waist, Su Mo tried to open his observation haki. The original invincible means of investigation completely lost their effect at this moment. Interesting, Su Mo's expression became alert. He was able to pull him, a Navy admiral, here unknowingly. He must be a fruit ability user with strange abilities. However, such ability users are generally weak. But we can't take it lightly. If we are not careful of being tricked, it will be too embarrassing. If we tell others, Vice Admiral Garp will laugh at us. Not feeling the danger in the fog, Su Mo tried to move forward. Soon, he arrived at the square in the center of the foggy space. Where is this? Su Mo looked around the empty place with only himself, and he was a little confused. If it was a dream created by a fruit ability user, it would be too realistic. But if it was reality, now someone should come and talk to him. 247. After thinking about it, he decided to try to see if there was anyone hiding around. Buzz invisible waves, with Su Mo as the center, expanded to the surroundings. The pressure of the domineering color domineering instantly filled the entire square. Like a raging wave, the domineering color domineering that can even crush the floor and the rocks did not cause any effect at this moment. The pressure of the domineering color domineering swept across the entire square, and there was no movement at all. It seems that this is not a dream. Su Mo judged. The domineering color domineering of his level is not a force that a dream can withstand. So, this is reality. But it can actually throw me here without any reaction. What kind of fruit ability is this? It can directly trap a general level combat power without even contact? This is too much of a bug. Just when he was confused, the foggy space fluctuated again. Not long after, a young man walked out of the white fog. Seeing the appearance of the young man, Su Mo was very shocked. Who are you? At the same time, the boy opposite was also very shocked. The originally dark pupils instantly reflected a rainbow-like light. This is definitely not the eye color that ordinary people can have. The moment they saw each other, they immediately raised their vigilance to the highest level. However, deep down, the two did not think that the other party would hurt themselves. What's your name? Your name? They asked at the same time. After exchanging glances, they answered at the same time. Su Mo. The atmosphere eased a little. Neither of them was the impulsive type, and they planned to use communication to solve the problem. That's it, without Su Mo knowing anything else. The two newcomers started their first meeting in the misty space. 123, the blue ribbon goddess would not have the wrong world. Horario. After leaving the misty space, Su Mo opened his eyes and found Hestia sitting opposite him. With one hand supporting his cheek, his blue pupils stared at him blankly. The huge marshmallow wrapped in a blue ribbon was placed flat on the table, sitting in such a posture that made people think about it. Hestia seemed unaware, and the expression on her face was as innocent as a child's. Chapter 129, just staring at Su Mo blankly, as if he could continue to look at him for 1,000 years. Hestia, what are you thinking about? Su Mo asked with some curiosity. I'm thinking about what our child's name will be. Wow! Su Mo, what are you asking? This is blasphemy. Hestia spoke her mind subconsciously. Her face suddenly turned red, and she stared at Su Mo with shame and anger. But this look did not have any deterrent power, but made people want to bully him even more. It's you who blasphemed. I didn't ask anything weird. Su Mo complained speechlessly. He had gotten used to Hestia's increasingly obvious feelings. And compared to this, I suddenly have a little curiosity dash. Can you gods really get pregnant? At this point, Su Mo's eyes were very curious. You. What are you asking? Hestia's face instantly heated up when she heard this question. Now, is it too early to ask this question now? They haven't developed to this point yet. However, if Su Mo really has this plan, shouldn't I also consider it? Just when her mind was full of random thoughts. Ahem. Su Mo cleared his throat and said seriously. Hestia, I am asking seriously academic discussion. Of course, Hestia blinked. After confirming that Su Mo really wanted to answer the question and not teasing her out of boredom, she was speechless for a moment. Is there any academic value in this regard? However, she still gave a reply. In terms of body structure, the difference between gods and humans is not big. You are a human, so you may not know it very well. In fact, many gods are born from the previous generation of gods. Our generation of gods are all born from the previous generation of Titan gods. However, if gods and humans are together, the one born may be a demigod. At this point, Hestia couldn't help but glance at Su Mo. What she was thinking was self-evident. I know this. Su Mo nodded. The gods of the Oreo world basically have them in most pantheons. In the Greek mythology, where Hestia herself is, the birth of the third generation of gods is basically through giving birth, which he naturally knows. Because of Su Mo in the God-Slayer world, he is quite familiar with myths from all over the world. The problem is not here, but rather, what I want to ask is, can gods like you, who have sealed their divine power, also get pregnant? Su Mo asked curiously. I heard that the goddess Freya has had relationships with various male gods and many of the followers in the lower world. According to her frequency, if she had not deliberately used protective measures, shouldn't she have had a child long ago? Sierra, who is suspected to be the child of the goddess Freya. In fact, it is just the incarnation of Freya. In other words, the goddess Freya actually has no children, at least no one has been found so far. This makes people a little confused. Hearing Su Mo's strange question, Hestia couldn't help but cover her face. Why did she discuss the issue of the goddess's pregnancy with the children of her own family? However, since Su Mo wanted to know, she would naturally not hide anything. Freya certainly has her own means of protection. Hestia covered her face with both hands and buried her head on the table. Then she explained in a very embarrassed tone. Although I don't know how Freya did it specifically, if she doesn't want to, she can use divine power to force it out directly. Don't look at Hestia as a virgin goddess, and she always stays at home. However, she likes to read books very much. When reading books, it is inevitable to gain a lot of unexpected knowledge. And Hestia learned a lot from books. In this basic means of protection, it is also mentioned in books. Hearing Hestia say this, although Su Mo doesn't know how to do it specifically, he is still shocked. Is this the legendary, using internal force to force out the things left in the body? Divine power? Is it such a convenient thing? Wait, divine power? Su Mo discovered a blind spot. Didn't the gods have an agreement that they can't use their divine power? Why can you use this trick to protect yourself? He didn't really know much about the agreement between the gods. Now that I think about it, this rule doesn't seem as strict as I thought. In the original book, Hestia seemed to have tried to use divine power, although she stopped halfway and didn't actually use it. But the divine power should still be mobilized in her body. After hearing Su Mo's words, although she was surprised why he would get to the bottom of this matter, Hestia still answered patiently. Although the divine power is sealed, we gods mainly rely on our own self-regulation. The seal itself is just a reminder. Generally, as long as you control and don't leak the divine power, there will be no big problem. Unless the gods are seriously injured by sneak attacks, they will be eliminated because they have no ability to control the divine power, which causes the divine power to automatically repair the body. Otherwise, it's not a foul to use a little divine power in your body at ordinary times. After all, the restriction on divine power is just a clause set by the gods to have fun in the world. The core is that no gods can cheat, so as not to affect the experience of other gods. You must play the role of ordinary people wholeheartedly. So for gods who actively use divine power to change the outside world and use divine power to heal their own injuries, this kind of interference with balance, these clauses are very ruthless. Once used, they will be automatically sent back to heaven. You will lose the qualification to play the game. However, as for using divine power to get some strange things out of your body, even the god Uranus will not care. It won't affect the balance of the game anyway. Everyone just let it go. I understand. After hearing Hestia's explanation, Su Mo nodded. After all, the final right of interpretation still belongs to the gods. So, in some details, it will not be too strict. That is to say, as long as the divine power itself does not interfere with the outside world and does not affect the balance. If it only flows inside, there is no problem. After realizing this, Su Mo's expression became thoughtful. It seems that he has a new idea. Speaking of which, Su Mo, why do you suddenly ask this? Hestia asked curiously. If it is for our sake, is it too early to consider this now? She still wants to live a world of two with Su Mo, children and the like, although she occasionally thinks about it. In fact, Hestia is not mentally prepared for this. She likes her daughter more, but she thinks that her daughter may divide Su Mo's love for her. And, in addition to this, she is also very concerned about another thing: the degree of divinity that gods can choose to give to their children. So, some demigods can even have power beyond ordinary gods, and some demigods are just like ordinary people. This depends on how noble the divinity of their parents is, how much they are willing to give, and how much power the demigod can inherit. According to Hestia's thoughts, she naturally wants to give the best to her and Su Mo's child. However, even if it is the best demigod, he can only inherit the power of God, but not the lifespan and wisdom of God. When I think of this, Chapter 130 Hestia, who is money, will inevitably think of the theory of lifespan, compared to the long lifespan of gods. Human lifespan is simply too short. Even now, she and Su Mo have just started. But Hestia couldn't help but think of the scenario where Su Mo might leave in a few decades, although she is willing to wait for Su Mo's reincarnation. However, hundreds of years of waiting may only lead to one encounter. For her, it was still too short. If possible, she hopes that Su Mo can also become a god so that they can be together forever. Unfortunately, this is almost impossible. In this day and age, basically no new gods will be born. Su Mo didn't know that Hestia, the goddess of abandoned houses, could think of so many things at once. Otherwise, he would definitely tell Hestia that his lifespan has actually exceeded the limit of ordinary people. So, hearing Hestia's question, he just shook his head mysteriously. I'll keep it a secret for now, and I'll tell you after my plan is completed. From Hestia's words, he gained new inspiration. If the monsters in the dungeon can really be transformed into the Philosopher's Stone, then this inspiration is very likely to be put into practice. 124 supporters and Philosopher's Stones, what? It's mysterious. I heard Su Mo say it was kept secret. Hestia couldn't help but pout. However, she had no intention of asking in detail. There are simply too many puzzles on Su Mo compared with other puzzles on him. The plan he talked about really didn't mean anything. At least it's what Hestia thinks now. Mention plans. Su Mo remembered what many Su Mo had discussed together in the foggy space. It's time to go find the monsters in the dungeon and do experiments. Thinking of this, he immediately found his adventurer beginner set. Are you going to the dungeon again? Hestia couldn't help but ask after seeing Su Mo's actions. Well, there are a few things I want to verify. Su Mo nodded. It was soon fully equipped, even if in fact he doesn't really need these equipment. However, the appearance still needs to be made. Oh. Hestia nodded obediently and then said, even if Su Mo is very strong now, you must be careful. The dungeon is not a safe place. Don't worry. Su Mo patted Hestia on the head. I won't let you, Hestia. Stay alone in your boudoir. Don't make fun of the gods. This is disrespectful to the gods. Hestia glared at Su Mo with her cheeks slightly red. Then say goodbye like a newlywed wife. Have a nice trip and go home soon. After saying that, Hestia suddenly thought of something and added another sentence. Remember, don't provoke vixens. Hearing this, Su Mo waved his hand speechlessly. I'll try my best. Then he opened the door and left. Hestia was left alone. 280 asked loudly with puffy cheeks. What does try your best mean? However, Su Mo pretended not to hear and did not answer. After leaving the family camp, Su Mo soon arrived at the entrance of the dungeon. As always, there are quite a few adventurers here. But those who travel together are basically adventurers from the same family. Just when Su Mo was about to go in directly, a dozen meters away from him, there was a weak aura that he had never noticed. After hesitating for a moment, he suddenly walked towards him. Excuse me, Mr. Adventurer, do you need support? A little girl who looked very petite, a little younger than her own blue ribbon goddess, asked boldly. In Oreo, people with this body type are still relatively common. Both the small humans and the dwarves are much shorter than normal humans. Dwarves are generally good at smelting and have advantages in strength, often possessing strange power skills. The small humans do not have this advantage. However, there is a certain talent in appearance. The men and women of the small human race generally look very young. Even if she is several decades old, she still looks like an ordinary human Lolita or Shota. However, Su Mo was certain that the little girl in front of him was indeed only a teenager. Little humans? Feeling a certain sense of déjà vu, Su Mo couldn't help but ask curiously. No! The hooded little girl took off her hat, revealing dark red hair and a pair of furry animal ears. Lily is a canine. The little girl said so. A dog-human race of this age. Actually, Afta came out to be a supporter, Su Mo said meaningfully. In fact, when he saw the pair of animal ears, he had already realized the identity of the little girl in front of him. Lililuca Erd, one of the female characters who suffered a rather tragic fate in the original novel. His parents died early, and the family he stayed with was an alcoholic family. Not only are they not taken care of by the family members, but they are even bullied and beaten by their fellow members, and even have their money robbed. For a little girl, such a living environment is not bad. It can be said that she did have a very sympathetic experience. However, in contrast to her tragic fate, she is not a purely positive character. She has also cheated adventurers and stolen their property. Although she did not kill people, she definitely did a lot of things to steal money. It is precisely because of this that the evaluation of her is a little complicated. This time, she targeted Su Mo, probably because Su Mo looked like a stranger and his equipment was obviously a novice set. So she came here thinking that she could squeeze some money out of him. Hearing Su Mo's question, Lily Luca showed an expression that she had something to hide. Everyone in the family likes to drink more and doesn't like to explore the dungeon. In addition, Lily is petite, so they are unwilling to hire me. Having said that, Lily Luca raised her head and explained. In fact, Lily has the skill of carrying weight, so she will definitely not be a drag. Her words are not lies. Basically, they are all facts. Therefore, it is easy to attract people's sympathy. Of course, it is also easy to attract those scum who want to bully the weak. For this kind of role, Su Mo will not be too harsh. If the other party asks for help, he does not mind lending a hand. But if you can restrain the malice in your heart, I don't mind helping you. Su Mo shook his head. Hearing this, Lily Luca's expression suddenly froze. What malice, this adventurer? Is it possible that he has seen it wrong? Lily has no malice. She felt that her acting was very natural, and it was not a lie. But why did the other party say that? Just when she was racking her brains to think about how to break the situation, Su Mo spoke again. Chapter 131. Wanting to obtain property that does not belong to you is also a kind of malicious intent. After saying that, Su Mo did not intend to continue the conversation with her. He stepped forward and walked towards the dungeon. Only Lily Luca, who was sweating on her back, was left looking at his back in panic. Who is this guy? Could it be that he has the ability to read minds? Lily Luca was completely panicked. She did not expect that the fat sheep she randomly selected would have this ability. She looked like a novice adventurer, but she seemed to have the skills to read emotions or psychology. Luckily, the other party did not expose her on the spot. Otherwise, if the matter of her transformation magic was exposed, Lily Luca's biggest trump card would be invalid. No matter what, I must stay away from this man next time. Lily Luca thought about it and swore in her heart. For someone like her who is used to using fraud to obtain property, people with mind reading are simply her natural enemies. She felt terrified when she thought of the scene where the other party exposed her plot. Su Mo, who had already entered the dungeon, didn't notice it. His short words had caused such a great psychological shadow on Lily Luca. After entering the dungeon, he forgot about the matter of this supporter. Compared with this, the matter of the Philosopher's Stone is much more important. In terms of refining the Philosopher's Stone, the monsters in the dungeon, even the shallow ones, have a considerable degree of intelligence. Originally, they could also be used as materials for trial. However, there are too many adventurers wandering within a dozen floors, and the number of monsters is not enough. In addition, Su Mo still feels that the matter of refining the Philosopher's Stone needs to be kept secret. After thinking about it, he continued to go deeper. Sure enough, the deeper he went, the fewer adventurers there were. After reaching more than 30 floors, there was no one at all. For Su Mo, this is a very convenient situation. Just a little walk around. He attracted the hatred of more than 100 monsters. The LV3 monsters directly formed a trend of monsters, chasing Su Mo's figure. After thinking that the number was enough, Su Mo stopped before the monsters were about to pounce on him. Gravity suppression, the superpower was activated, and suddenly, the gravity in the area near Su Mo instantly became more than 10 times stronger. More than 100 monsters were directly pressed down on the spot by this huge gravity. Even the bones were broken. Although they did not die directly, they were completely unable to move. This situation was exactly what Su Mo wanted. He had already seen the Gate of Truth, so he did not need to draw the alchemy array. He clapped his hands. The alchemy of refining the Philosopher's Stone was immediately activated. A bright red light began to bloom. The monsters bound by Su Mo lost their lives silently. And in Su Mo's hand, a bright red stone gradually took shape. Give joy to suffering. Give victory to battle. Give rebirth to the dead. This is the promise made by the blood-red stone, and people respectfully call it Philosopher's Stone. It actually works. Su Mo was delighted. If the monster can extract the Philosopher's Stone, then he can do a lot of things. Many of the plans discussed before can be tried, and this size is much larger than that of humans. Notice the size of the Philosopher's Stone in his hand, compared with the same amount of Philosopher's Stone of humans in the Full Metal Alchemist world in his brain knowledge. Su Mo found that the amount of Philosopher's Stone that these monsters can refine is dozens of times that of ordinary people. I don't know if this has anything to do with the strength of the monsters. LV3 level monsters are naturally much stronger than humans. Although, in theory, there should be no direct relationship between the strength of the monster and the amount of Philosopher's Stone that can be refined. The decisive factor should be the amount of spiritual power. However, the stronger the monster, the more spiritual energy it may contain. Therefore, it is very likely that the stronger the monster, the more Philosopher's Stone it can refine. This aspect needs to be verified. As for the verification method, you only need to find the same number of other level monsters, refined into Philosopher's Stone, and then compared. 125 unique resources. Loki family holding the Philosopher's Stone in his palm. Su Mo looked at the corpses of the monsters around him. Because all of them lost their lives, the corpses of the monsters quickly dissipated. This is the norm in the dungeon. The only unusual thing is, sure enough, looking at the scene in front of him, Su Mo showed an expression that he had expected. Magic stone, all gone. Killing monsters to upgrade and drop magic stones. This should have been the standard of the dungeon. Occasionally, if you are lucky, you will drop solid materials from the monsters, which can be used as weapons or something. This is the most normal thing in the dungeon. However, at this moment, after Su Mo used alchemy to refine it, the magic stone that was supposed to appear disappeared along with the bodies of the monsters. The composition of the Philosopher's Stone should be closely related to the magic stone. Su Mo had already guessed this. The energy core of the monsters in the dungeon comes from the magic stone in their bodies. Their structure is actually very similar to the artificial humans in the Full Metal Alchemist world. The core of the artificial humans in the Full Metal Alchemist world is the Philosopher's Stone. As long as the Philosopher's Stone is not destroyed or consumed, the artificial humans will basically not die. This is very similar to monsters. Although the specific composition is different, it can be inferred from the scene in front of us. Magic stone is one of the most important materials that monsters can refine into Philosopher's Stone. So, after refining the Philosopher's Stone, the magic stone will disappear. I just don't know if it can be refined into Philosopher's Stone if it is just magic stone. This is worth trying. After making a decision in his heart, Su Mo continued to go deeper into the dungeon in order to make the difference in the strength level of the monsters. Observe whether the LV4 monsters refine more Philosopher's Stone than LV3. Su Mo sank nearly 10 floors in one breath. He soon reached the 40th floor of the dungeon. What was a little strange was that, along the way, Su Mo did not encounter any monsters. However, when he reached the 42nd floor, he finally understood why it was so quiet along the way. It turned out that a clan was on an expedition in the dungeon. They happened to be clearing the way ahead and got rid of all the monsters, because they were in a hurry to do experiments. Su Mo did not care about this clan, but flew directly from the sky. Almost no attention was attracted. Only a blonde girl who was maintaining a long sword noticed the strangeness of the wind. But she did not notice Su Mo's figure. After reaching the depths of the 43rd floor, Su Mo stopped. Chapter 132. Because there are no adventurer activities, there are many monsters on this floor. After a little guidance, Su Mo drew hatred. Soon, more than 100 LV 4-level monsters gathered. Repeat the old trick. After confirming that the number of monsters was almost the same as before on the 30th floor, Su Mo stopped attracting monsters, immediately used superpowers to completely lock the monster's mobility and leave them seriously injured. Then, crack! Put your hands together and activate alchemy. The red light shines again. And this time, a careful comparison revealed that the Philosopher's Stone obtained by Su Mo was obviously larger than the Philosopher's Stone refined from LV3 level monsters. In other words, the stronger the monster is, the greater the weight of the Philosopher's Stone that can be refined. Su Mo finally confirmed this conclusion. The next conclusion that needs to be verified is, can it be refined into a Philosopher's Stone just by relying on the magic stone? It is not difficult to verify this. To control variables, he once again attracted the hatred of more than 100 monsters. After the numbers matched, he did not use superpower to suppress. Instead, he directly used group attack magic. Fairy Law. Using the ultimate move to defeat mobs is really easy. In just the blink of an eye, the ruthless light shattered the surrounding monsters. Only magic stones fell to the ground. After collecting these magic stones, Su Mo activated the refining formation again. Exactly the same? Looking at the Philosopher's Stone refined from magic stones and the Philosopher's Stone refined from monsters. Compare these two Philosopher's Stones, which are both refined with LV 4-level monsters, together. Su Mo discovered that the two Philosopher's Stones were almost the same size. In other words, to refine the Philosopher's Stone, you don't actually need the monster itself at all. Just the magic stone is enough. The results produced by the two are the same. After realizing this, Su Mo stood at the intersection, lost in thought. If magic stones are the necessary material to refine the Philosopher's Stone, doesn't it mean that I only need to collect enough magic stones? In Oreo, magic stones and money are guaranteed by the guild and can be freely exchanged. It can be said that the magic stone is Phalai, and Phalai is the magic stone. Su Mo needs a large amount of magic stones as raw materials to make the Philosopher's Stone. In other words, magic stones can be purchased with a large amount of mana. However, it is a pity. Although he is not short of money now, he does not have this level of financial resources. It seems difficult to make so much money. So, the fastest way is to collect it myself? After thinking about it, Su Mo discovered, if you want to get a lot of magic stones quickly, doing it yourself should be the most efficient way. With his strength, even LV7, LV8, and LV9 monsters are not a troublesome thing to deal with. And these high-level monsters contain more magic stones than low-level monsters. One can defeat 100 or even 1,000 low-level monsters. As for Su Mo, with Fairy Law in place, the number of monsters is meaningless. Go deep into the dungeon every day to slay monsters, and within a few days you will be able to accumulate a large amount of Philosopher's Stones. With the quality and quantity of deep monsters, there is also a refresh function for dungeons. Su Mo felt that in less than a month, the amount of Philosopher's Stone refined in the underground city would be enough to produce the amount that would have taken tens of millions of people to sacrifice in the steel refining world. The little man in a bottle in the world of steel. If only he knew that this world has such unique resources. I would probably be jealous to the point of being jealous. With such abundant resources, naturally, Su Mo would not follow the path of the villain in the bottle. Using the Philosopher's Stone, and the formation to forcibly pry open the planet's memory and gain power that was not his own. 0 asked for flowers, 0 until one's own strength is insufficient to carry this knowledge. This is purely evil. The villain in the bottle is so greedy that he cannot control those powers at all. It can only be suppressed by force with the Philosopher's Stone. Once it loses the Philosopher's Stone, it will completely go berserk. This kind of becoming stronger is not evolution in the true sense. Su Mo planned to play it slow and steady, redeem knowledge step by step, and master it thoroughly. His goal is greater than the goal of the villain in the bottle. Therefore, his actions were more cautious. After a rough calculation, Su Mo confirmed, if you want to achieve your goal, the number of monsters you need to kill, as well as the time cost, are all within your tolerance. The income is still very high. After confirming this, he was in a happy mood, ready to continue to the deep levels to spawn monsters. Just getting ready to leave. Suddenly, I heard a movement from ahead. Is it a monster? Su Mo was a little surprised when he noticed a breath approaching quickly. He should have wiped out all the monsters around here. But soon he remembered something. It seemed that a family member on an expedition passed by before. Really? After a few seconds, a strange figure landed. Loki Familia? Looking at the white-haired werewolf in front of him, Su Mo was stunned for a moment and immediately recognized the clan to which the man in front of him belonged. Then he said hello casually. Hello? The white-haired werewolf opposite responded blankly, looking stunned. As a striker, this was the first time he suddenly discovered an adventurer in such a deep place. He looked at the empty space behind Su Mo. The werewolf sniffed with his nose but couldn't smell anyone else. After he came to his senses, he exclaimed, "Are you a loner?" Werewolf Bert's eyes were completely shocked. This is not a place like the dozen or so floors of a dungeon. The monsters are weak and not many in number. There, novice adventurers can also fight alone. This place is more than 40 floors deep, and ordinary monsters have LV4 level strength. Not only that, monsters will appear in droves. There are also a variety of different monster types. Even if you are LV5, it is very dangerous to fight alone at this level. Different types of monsters have different characteristics. Sometimes, it doesn't mean that one can defeat monsters of the same level if one has extraordinary skills and strength. Some monsters require adventurers who use blunt weapons to deal with them. Some require sharp weapons, and some require magicians with powerful firepower. If the compatibility is not good, even if the adventurer encounters a monster of a lower level, he may still be in a difficult battle. In a place like this, group strategy is almost a must. If you want to rely on the level difference to do it alone, you must at least be an adventurer of level 5 or above to do so. However, frontline adventurers should all have names. But he had never seen the man in front of him, and he had never heard of him. 126 Lafia vows. Who are you? Werewolf Bert couldn't help but ask. When did such a completely unfamiliar existence appear among the first-line adventurers? How come he has no impression at all? But if we say that the other party is not a first-line adventurer, it's just the words of a weakling who happened to be on the current level. Chapter 133. Bert would not believe it either. The strong and the weak can be distinguished by their eyes. Bert is fully aware of his ferocious eyes. Ordinary adventurers are afraid of him. The man in front of him looked very calm. Although he was greeting him, his eyes did not seem to be looking at him, as if he was looking at something deeper. This kind of eyes is rare. It made him feel vaguely uneasy when facing the guild god Uranus. Not to mention, when he explored the vicinity, he never found any monsters. It is very likely that the monsters nearby were all cleared by the man in front of him. Me? Hearing his question, Su Mo answered casually. Just an ordinary adventurer passing by. After saying that, he had no intention of staying. He was about to continue to the next floor. At this time, a cheerful voice came from behind the werewolf Bert. Bert, why are you suddenly making such a surprise sound? Is there a monster that can't be defeated? A dark brown-skinned girl dressed in an Amazon style jumped and ran over carrying a huge weapon that was more than one person tall. Thinking that her companions in the front exploration had encountered monsters, the girl quickly jumped out of the forest behind. Then, she looked at Su Mo in front of the werewolf Bert. Woo wow! The girl immediately made a very loud sound. Then she suddenly got in front of Su Mo. She looked at him with curiosity. Lone Walker, still on the 40th floor? We seem to have met a big guy. The voice of the lively girl was much louder than that of the werewolf bird. It was also more penetrating. In less than 10 seconds, the other adventurers in the Loki family rushed over. If they hadn't heard the following content clearly, they would have thought that Diana and Bert were attacked by monsters. However, it was precisely because they heard the following content clearly. Only the first-line adventurers of the Loki clan would act so quickly, encountering a lone traveler on the 40-plus floors. This news is more shocking than encountering a monster. The conjecture in my heart has been verified. Su Mo is now very free and is not in a hurry to go to the lower floors. However, he has no intention of chatting with these people. After saying hello, he was about to leave, but he heard a slightly familiar voice. Mr. Suen, La Fille, who came late, looked at the man in front of her with surprise, her pupils full of disbelief. The slender girl beside her was as shocked as her. Time goes back to 1 minute ago. The 43rd floor of the dungeon, not far from the entrance. The adventurers of the Loki clan are on an expedition. This expedition does not have any clear goal, mainly to defeat the floor master, who refreshes only once every few months. After clearing these difficult monsters, the official expedition can save a lot of effort. There is no need to consider carrying too many extra supplies to defeat the floor master. For some reason, after entering the 43rd floor, they found that there were fewer monsters around than usual. After noticing something unusual, the team leader Finn immediately sent Bert and Diana, 2 LV5 adventurers, to investigate the situation. The other first-line adventurers in the team were much freer because there were no monsters. La Fille took the opportunity to approach Miss AC, the sword lady she had always admired. She had noticed it before. Miss AC's expression has been gloomy these days. She has been like this since she was rejected by an adventurer named Su Mo that day. As a little fan of AC, she naturally would not miss this opportunity to comfort her. Miss AC, are you still worried about being rejected? La Fille asked in a low voice. Yeah. AC glanced at La Fille and nodded. Although he said that his method of becoming stronger is not suitable for me, I still want to try it. With the speed of that man strengthening, even if she can only achieve 1% of his, it is still a very terrifying speed of strengthening. So, despite being rejected, she still longs for it. However, even if she longs for this method of becoming stronger, after being rejected by Su Mo again, she listened to Lavilia's teachings and stopped bothering him. But it is inevitable that she will still think of this matter. It's like seeing those children who can't afford the toys in the window of the mall. The mood is inevitably low. Hearing what AIC said, La Fille hurriedly said the comforting words she had been brewing for a long time. Miss AC, don't be so persistent. Although Mr. Su Mo is getting stronger very quickly, isn't he a novice adventurer? The tricks for newcomers to grow fast may not be very effective for first-line adventurers like Miss AC. After all, novices have a weaker foundation, so it is easy to improve. For first-line adventurers like Miss AC, who have a stronger foundation, it is particularly difficult to improve. These words were not all thought up by La Fille. She had also asked Lavilia, Finn, and others these days. After comprehensive analysis, she came up with this point of view, which was prepared to comfort AIC. These words closely revolved around the means of becoming stronger and clearly analyzed the possibility of AIC being rejected. At the same time, AIC's expectations for Su Mo's method of becoming stronger were deliberately lowered. It can be said that it was a special attack version of AIC. Sure enough, the effect was outstanding. Hearing La Fille's words, AIC blinked blankly. It makes sense. She understood that when she was weak, she would become stronger faster. Back then, she was promoted from LV1 adventurer to LV2 in just 1 year, breaking the record of Oreo 0. However, the speed of becoming stronger after that was much slower. Until she reached LV5, she stayed at the bottleneck for a long time. Only then did she get anxious. La Fille's words did sound very reasonable. The speed at which newcomers become stronger is much faster than that of veterans. However, even so, she still wants to know how the other party becomes stronger. Just as Ace was about to speak, Lafia continued. I know Miss Ace has been stuck at LV5 for a long time, so I want to go further. But precisely because of this, Miss Ace should pay more attention to the way powerful first-line adventurers become stronger, rather than the way novice adventurers become stronger. These two are not things of the same difficulty. Instead of continuing to think about Mr. Su Mo, maybe it would be better to ask a senior with a higher level. After Lafia finished speaking, Ace was silent. Indeed, what Lafia said makes sense, although she still has some thoughts about Su Mo's way of becoming stronger. However, compared to the means of becoming stronger for novice adventurers, the means of becoming stronger for adventurers with a higher level are more suitable for her. But I have asked Lavilia, Finn, Grace, and others in the family. Ace said to Lafia, I have learned everything I should learn. Seniors from the same clan are the best teachers. Ace, who knew this, had naturally asked the three giants of Loki's clan. If it was useful, she wouldn't be so obsessed with Su Mo before. Chapter 130, for hearing this, Lafia was stunned. She didn't know what to do either. You can't go anywhere to find a LV6 teacher for Miss AC. At this time, Diana's voice sounded in the distance. Lone Walker, still on the 40th floor. We seem to have met a big boss. Hearing this, everyone in 3.0 was shocked. Lafia's eyes lit up. If you dare to walk alone in this place full of LV4 monsters, your strength must be at least LV5. If you want to ensure safety, your strength should reach LV6. Give me a pillow when you feel sleepy. Isn't this a very good teacher? As for whether the other party is willing to teach Miss Ace, although there is no way to force this, but at least, can Miss Ace draw her attention away from Mr. Su Mo? Save those guys outside from spreading rumors. He said that Miss Ace was in a bad mood because she was dumped and fell out of love. Thinking of this, Lafia immediately grabbed Ace's sleeve. He said with excitement, Miss Ace, anyone who can walk alone on this floor must be an extremely strong person. Such a strong person, even if he doesn't have any secret skills to become stronger, must still have a lot of experience. Since Miss Ace cares so much about the means to become stronger, we can try to ask about it. Even if the other party is difficult to communicate with, it is still more likely than Mr. Su Mo to change his mind, right? 127 Su Mo just wants a tool man after Lafia's strong persuasion. Ace nodded. Then let's go quickly. Lafia immediately happily pulled Ace up, rushed towards Tiona. She didn't know who the loner Diana was meeting now. However, no matter who it is, it cannot be the Su Mo from before. That's enough. Although Miss Ace is powerful and reliable. But after all, he is still only 16 years old. If you care too much about a man, that's not a good thing. I hope the lone traveler boss can be easier to talk to. Even if that doesn't work, it would be a good thing to let Miss Ace change her target. Thinking this, Lafia had a happy smile on her face. Soon, she and Ace arrived at Tiona's location. Then he saw Su Mo in front of Tiona. Lafia's smile suddenly stiffened. Why does the man in front of me look so familiar? This man? Why is he here? When surprised, before she knew it, she had exclaimed, Mr. Su. He looked at the novice adventurer in front of him in disbelief. Lafia was completely stunned, walking alone in the depths of more than 40 floors of a dungeon. Is this something a novice adventurer can do? Thinking of what I said before, Lafia was so ashamed that she wanted to crawl into the cracks in the ground. A novice adventurer like Su Mo might become stronger faster, but don't worry too much. It's completely turned into nonsense at this moment. The man in front of me is obviously a big shot. Not only is he not a novice adventurer, he is at least a first-tier adventurer, with a level of at least LV5 or above. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a person to appear here alone. I just analyzed a lot and consulted a lot of opinions from people, totally overturned in this moment. The man in front of him simply grew stronger at an astonishing speed. And not only in the novice stage, but also in the veteran stage, the speed of becoming stronger is amazing. It is purely a bug-level existence. After realizing this, Lafia was shocked at first. After the shock, she immediately thought of something. He turned to look at Ace beside him. Really? Acey's expression was so shocked that she was completely confused. At this time, Finn, the leader of the Loki Familia, looked at Lafia with some curiosity. Does Lafia actually know this Mr. Su Mo? Can you introduce it to us? Hearing Lafia shout out Su Mo's name in surprise, Finn thought the two knew each other, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Although the Loki Familia is the leading familia in Oreo. But there are only 3 LV6 adventurers now. The lone traveler in front of me is probably at the LV6 level. As a leader, I naturally want to say hello and build relationships. Even if they're just acquaintances, they may come in handy in the future. Even if the opponent is only LV5, he still belongs to the bold type of people with high skills. There is no harm in having one more friend. Well, I heard the leader Finn say this. Lafia looked hesitant. Introduce? How to introduce? With a wry smile, she said, "This Mr. Su Mo is the one that Miss Ace always wanted to ask about how to become stronger." She tried to be as tactful as possible. It's a pity that Tiona, a carefree guy, is here. After hearing Lafia's words, she suddenly realized. Oh, he's the man who was said to have dumped Ace-chan before. Then he looked at Su Mo curiously again. He's so handsome and so strong. No wonder our sword princess has taken a fancy to him. Huh? If Loki knew, he would burst into tears. As she said this, Diana laughed heartily. She seemed to be very happy to see her clan's main god being humiliated. The man who dumped AC. The leader Finn was stunned for a moment. Then he immediately understood who Lafia was referring to. Is this the man who made AC lose her appetite for a few days? He looked at Su Mo with some curiosity. The same was true for Lavilia on the side. Although she had heard about AC before, this was the first time she had seen the rumored man. I remember that he was just a novice adventurer a few days ago. How come he has become a first-line adventurer now? Could it be that the other party had hidden his strength before? Just as they were about to greet each other and apologize to Su Mo for AC's previous behavior, the two found that AC had walked in front of each other without knowing when. You have become stronger again. Ace looked up at Su Mo, her tone full of confidence. After the initial shock, she remembered what Lafia had said before. One thing was completely confirmed. That is, Su Mo not only became stronger at an amazing speed, but his strength also reached an amazing level. According to what Lafia had said before, Su Mo's method of becoming stronger quickly at a high level. It is the most suitable method or experience for him to learn now. No other. I guess Lafia hadn't thought of it before. My words not only did not relieve Miss AIC's obsession with Su Mo. On the contrary, it would deepen this point a little bit. Hearing AIC's question, Su Mo nodded. The last time I saw this guy, I was still LV2. Chapter 135, it is now LV3. Naturally, it has become stronger. However, for Su Mo, this enhancement is just an improvement in basic quality. Not a big change. However, for AC, this is not a situation that can be taken lightly. It's only been a few days. The opponent immediately became stronger to the level of a first-line adventurer. It's like it's getting stronger every time you breathe. After hearing Su Mo admit this, AC wanted to speak and asked Su Mo to teach her again. But when he was about to speak, she remembered Su Mo's rejection before, and then remembered Riveria's teachings. Suddenly, she became confused. He bit his lips lightly, not daring to speak. The look he looked at Su Mo was like a stray puppy looking forward to being adopted, shining and looking forward to it. But he didn't dare to get close, for fear of being disliked. It is really rare for Miss Sword Princess, who is famous in Oreo, to show such a pitiful posture. Even Riveria, the mother-like existence who has been taking care of Ace since childhood. I have never seen Ace like this. However, she did know Ace's current state of mind. So I didn't dissuade him, I just sighed. When Lafia saw this scene, her heart almost started to bleed. When will Miss Ace be able to act coquettishly to herself like this? If she could get this scene in exchange, Lafia felt that she would be willing to give up 10 years of her life. No, 20 years. Crack. A very subtle sound slightly attracted Lafia's attention. At first glance, the werewolf bird, the vanguard of the Familia, clenched his fist tightly. After seeing the look in Ace's eyes towards Su Mo, Lafia's heart was bleeding. Werewolf Bert almost had bloodshot eyes. However, he, who has always been arrogant, did not make a sound at this moment and remained silent. For the werewolf Bert, who always likes to advocate the strong attitude, facing Su Mo, a guy who could crush him in both speed and strength, he had no room to speak. Since we accept the privileges of the strong over the weak, then we must accept the privileges of the stronger over the stronger. This is two sides of the same coin. In short, seeing the werewolf Bert like this, Lafia suddenly felt that this grumpy senior seemed a little pitiful. However, he must not let him notice his pity eyes. Otherwise, the werewolf with strong self-esteem will definitely come to trouble him. And in the center of everyone's attention, Su Mo didn't notice the delicate emotions of others. Looking at Ace in front of me, he suddenly remembered the guy he met when he entered the dungeon just now. Supporters. So far, as a time traveler, he didn't get the essential skill for time travelers, storage space. Although Academy City's superpower gravity operation can interfere with space, but not to the extent of creating space. If you go deep into the dungeon and defeat monsters, compared to the time it takes to kill a monster, the time spent on attracting hatred and collecting magic stones may be spent more. In this case, the efficiency would be too low. If there is a tool man who is agile, good at drawing hatred, and can do hard work to help him, the efficiency of obtaining magic stones by yourself can be greatly improved. The time required to accumulate enough Philosopher's Stones will also be greatly shortened. Think of this. Su Mo looked at the blonde girl in front of him, looking expectantly. Yes, a great tool choice. So, he immediately asked, "Are you interested in being my supporter?" Hear this. Ace, who originally looked a little downcast and thought she would not be accepted, immediately raised her head in surprise. "I do." She immediately agreed, even if the other party didn't say what the reward was. Ace didn't care either. Compared to the previous attitude of direct refusal, wouldn't it be great to be able to help now? Even if the other party treats him as a tool. She was also willing to do so, because only by becoming a tool person first can it be possible to impart the experience of the other party. Before, she wanted to be a tool, but she couldn't. So, there is no reason to say no. 128 Miss Ace is not a liquor supporter. Hear the conversation between the two. Everyone in Loki's family looked at each other in shock. Low-level adventurers serve as supports for high-level adventurers. This kind of thing is indeed very common. During the internal expedition of the Loki Familia, second-line adventurers at LV3, LV4 level will basically help first-line adventurers with odd jobs and serve as supporters. However, this is a top-notch combination that can only be found in their premier family clan. Let LV5 level first-line adventurers serve as supporters. Not to say it was unheard of, at least it was something that Oreo had never experienced before. Even an LV6 adventurer doesn't have this qualification, right? According to their speculation, the Su Mo in front of them should be at the LV6 level. After all, in horario, there is only one adventurer at level LV7. Oda, the fierce man in Freya's family. As for this Oda, they had seen him before, and he was not the man in front of them. They were about to say something, but they didn't expect it. AC immediately agreed to the other party's request, and she looked happy, as if she had received some reward. Lafia and others were stunned for a moment. What kind of dog-licking behavior is this? The other party didn't agree to teach you the skills to become stronger. Didn't you agree too quickly? And why are you so happy? If AC was a dog man, they even suspected that the tail behind AC would shake directly at this time. Finn couldn't help covering his face. He felt that after returning, it was necessary to propose to the Lord Loki to strengthen AC's education. Lavilia understood AC's thoughts, but she also felt that it was inappropriate for her to agree so readily. When she was about to persuade her to stop, AC suddenly looked at them with a hesitant look. Lavilia and the others breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this little idiot AC was not that stupid. She even knew to ask for their opinions. As she thought about this, she heard AC's words. Lavilia, Finn, if you want to be a supporter, what about the expedition? AC asked with an embarrassed look on her face. Puff. Chapter 136 Finn squirted directly onto Grace. Cough, cough, cough. He started coughing violently. They thought Ace was hesitating whether she really wanted to be that man's supporter. After all, they still have an expedition. But I didn't expect it. AIC has already considered becoming Su Mo's supporter a given. Not thinking about it now. Should we give up being a supporter for the sake of the expedition? But thinking about it, do you want to give up the expedition in order to become a supporter? Now Finn and others have finally experienced the state of mind of being parents to some extent. What does it mean for a daughter to be extroverted? This is extroversion. Before he even made a single stroke, his elbows were already turned outward. Finn and Riveria were originally very calm and believed that the rumors about Sword Lady being in love were just rumors. But this moment, the three giants of the Loki familia looked at each other, and they all found the answer they wanted in each other's eyes. There must be adultery. If little Ace hadn't fallen in love with the other party, she wouldn't have been able to do this. After confirming this, the big three didn't know what to say. Naturally, we should support the love affairs of children from the family members. The Su Mo in front of him looked so young, powerful, and very handsome. To be honest, it looks very pleasing to the eye when paired with Ace. Even though they are Ace's elders, they have to admit that they are a perfect match. However, they don't know Su Mo well yet. I don't know if I can entrust AC to him. Moreover, now is not the time to think about this. Not to mention whether she should be entrusted or not. Little AC was ready to run away with another man. If you don't speak up, it will be too late. Excuse me, is Mr. Su Mo planning to take AC on a deep exploration? Finn took a step forward and asked. Yes. Su Mo nodded. For some reason, I need a lot of magic stones recently. If you explore alone, the efficiency of obtaining magic stones will be too low. Half the support level is not enough. So it would be much more convenient for me if there are suitable adventurers to serve as support. He knew that the other party was the leader of the Loki familia. As the leader of the dependent clan, he is indeed qualified to inquire about the whereabouts of other dependents. So I don't mind the other party's questions and just answer them truthfully. He glanced at the people who were on the expedition. Su Mo added casually. Of course, if you want to go on an expedition now, I can wait a few days. As long as it doesn't take too long, I'm not in a hurry. Of course, if it takes too long, I will reconsider. He has relatively high requirements for supporters, so have enough patience. Not only are there hard conditions in terms of strength, but the most important thing is being able to keep secrets. AIC, a person who doesn't like to talk, naturally fits this point. Therefore, after careful consideration, Su Mo did not intend to replace others. However, what I think in my heart cannot be said out loud. As a qualified capitalist, tool workers cannot be made aware of their irreplaceability. Really? After hearing what Su Mo said, AC's expression suddenly became tense. Don't worry. No, it won't be long. She said this immediately and then looked at Finn and Riveria with pleading eyes. Being looked at by her like this, the two LV6 members of the family members showed bitter smiles. This expedition won't last long. Finn nodded. After all, this time is just to clear the road. The official expedition will be next time. With our current manpower, even if Ace leaves now, it actually won't matter. A formal expedition will definitely take a lot longer. But this time it was different. Having already penetrated to the 43rd floor, they originally only planned to continue exploring the 5th floor. It is enough to reach the 48th floor at most. As for the class owners on the 49th floor, they have no intention of challenging them. That is an object that needs to be left for the next formal expedition with better preparations to attack. After all, the class master of the 49th floor, its strength has reached LV7. Even this time, Riveria, the magician, is present. They didn't dare to test it rashly without being fully prepared. Finn said this. Mainly just follow what Ace said and explain. Otherwise, if Su Mo really thinks it takes too long, if she really looks for others to be her supporters, then little AC will have to blame them to death. They don't want to hinder young people's romance. However, after hearing his words, AC's eyes lit up. Really, Finn? She asked, slightly concerned. Is it okay if I leave now? This. Finn fell completely silent. Are you so eager to follow your sweetheart? Alas, he just couldn't understand the enthusiasm of young people. However, if this kid Ace can change from being obsessed with becoming stronger to becoming interested in other things, It's also a good thing for her growth. So, after thinking about it carefully, Finn nodded. Yes, the floor masters that should be eliminated have been eliminated. There was no major battle afterwards. In addition, several of them are LV6 here, and Dion, and other LV5 are also here. It doesn't matter if AC, who is LV5, is not here. Therefore, if AC wants to leave, it will not affect the expedition team. More importantly, even if Su Mo and AC plan to continue to go deeper into the dungeon, with their strength, they can only reach the 48th floor at most. They should not be able to defeat the floor master of the 49th floor. Maybe they can travel light and avoid monsters, which will make them faster. But not too much faster. Sooner or later, their expedition team will catch up with the two. In this way, there is no need to worry about safety. If AC and Su Mo are in danger or something, they are still able to rescue them. Of course, if they are really in danger. In addition to rescuing, they will definitely stop AC from continuing such dangerous activities. If there is no danger, everyone will be happy. Money. It can also prove that Su Mo is indeed capable of soloing with AIC. As a leader, after a lot of thinking in his mind, Finn made this decision. Let AIC follow Su Mo to explore first, whether it will be in danger or not. He has the spare energy to remedy and retain the ability to react next. As for AIC, she naturally didn't know that Finn had considered so much for her. However, she knew that it was Finn's special care that she could temporarily leave the team. Chapter 137. So, she immediately bowed to Finn with gratitude. Thank you, leader. Finn nodded and then said to Ace, you have to be careful too. Then he turned his attention to Su Mo since AC has agreed. Her safety is entrusted to you. That's a given. Su Mo also understood the concerns of Finn, Riveria, and others. He smiled and nodded, making a promise. Don't worry. As an adventurer, I won't let my supporters fall into a trap. Then I'll ask you to take care of this child later. After hearing Su Mo's words, Riveria felt a little relieved and bowed to Su Mo. After saying goodbye, under the watchful eyes of several people, the figures of Su Mo and AC gradually disappeared in front of them. 129 King of the Furmore tribe. Baylor after the two of them left the site of Loki Familia. AC followed Su Mo's back blankly. Su Mo didn't speak, and she didn't ask anything. Just follow Su Mo. After noticing this, Su Mo became even more satisfied with AC, a tool man. Be well-behaved, obedient, and don't talk too much. In terms of confidentiality attributes, it is very reliable. However, it is a bit weak in terms of strength. But this is not a big problem. I remember, you should have wind magic. Su Mo suddenly spoke. Yes, Ace nodded. As a famous swordswoman from Oreo, Ace's signature skill is besides her superb swordsmanship. The most important thing is the wind magic she holds. The wind magic called Wind Spirit Rush is not used to attack enemies like ordinary magic. Instead, it is used as status magic to amplify itself. Wrap your body with the power of wind, thereby improving attack, defense, speed, and short-distance flight capabilities. It can be said that it is a very powerful all-round improvement magic. With the blessing of this magic, her agility was greatly enhanced again, and all combat behaviors could be corrected. Whether it is attacking, defending, retreating, or interfering, it is very convenient. She fully displayed the power of swordsmanship that she was good at. It can be said that just this magic can increase her strength by more than 30%. After hearing Ace's answer, Su Mo spoke again. Use this magic and see. Ace was a little confused. There are no monsters nearby, so there is no need to use this magic, right? However, she didn't ask. He just silently followed Su Mo's request and mobilized the magic power in his body. Tempest. After chanting, the invisible wind wrapped Ace like armor. Both the body and the scabbard were protected. The protection of the wind. Su Mo looked at Ace's whole body. The wind is invisible to ordinary people. In Su Mo's eyes, it was a very conspicuous elemental vortex. With the power of the storm in his hands, he could see at a glance the workings of the wind element on Ace's body. It is indeed very suitable for a swordsman's fighting style. Flexible. The only problem is that it's not flexible enough. He commented a little on the magic. Flexible, but not particularly flexible, although it is indeed suitable for swordsman fighting. However, there is room for improvement in many areas. It did not maximize the flexibility of the wind. Just when AC was a little confused, Su Mo grabbed her hand directly. "Try this. It should be faster if we hurry up," said. At the moment when AC didn't react, he directly interfered with the wind near AC's body. With the power of Lord of the Sky, he completely gained control of this wind magic. Then mold it into your own shape. Wait until AC reacts. Suddenly discovered. On his body, the lufeng that had been wrapped around him like armor became a little weaker. In contrast, behind him, there were swirling wings of wind formed. The wings of wind brought powerful lift, allowing Ace to easily float up from the ground. "Is this flying?" Ace stared at the ground in disbelief, her tone a little surprised. With the help of Wind Spirit Walk, she can indeed fly short distances, but it was more like a long jump than flying. It is completely different from the feeling of flying directly into the air now. And more importantly, why would my own wind listen to this man? She couldn't help but cast her eyes towards Su Mo beside her. Su Mo had no intention of explaining. After seeing her able to control her balance, only then did he speak. "Remember this feeling and use this trick when traveling in the future. It will be much faster." "Oh." Ace nodded in approval. Fly faster than run. She still knew this. Especially in the dungeon environment, flying in the sky can avoid the interference of many monsters. For a lone traveler, this is a very good skill. Can save a lot of effort. "Then let's go." Without waiting for AIC to answer, he directly pulled the blonde girl into the sky. Behind Su Mo, the gorgeous wings condensed by the storm started instantly like the engine of a jet fighter. With a gentle wave, the speed of the two people was directly pushed to the speed of sound, enveloping the unprepared AIC, flying directly to a position close to the ceiling, and then advancing rapidly. Soon, they entered the next level of the dungeon. It must be said that flying in the dungeon is also an excellent skill. Without disturbing too many monsters, the disturbed flying monsters basically can't catch up with them. In just a few minutes, the two crossed 5 floors and came to the 49th floor. This time, it was not that Su Mo wanted to stop. His goal was not this shallow layer. The reason for stopping was that the monsters on the 49th floor blocked most of the direction of the passage. Although it is not impossible to take a detour, but it is easier to get rid of this monster than to do so. So, after making a decision, the storm wings behind Su Mo dissipated and landed directly on the ground. At his side, AIC was experiencing supersonic flight for the first time. Her pretty face was completely pale. She grabbed Su Mo's arm. Her legs were not weak, but her arm was a little sore. Now, AIC finally understood. Su Mo taught her how to use the wings of wind simply to help her travel faster. Chapter 138 and Su Mo's speed. It is really only a few 100 million points faster than the speed of ordinary flying monsters. Even someone like her who frequently engages in high mobility combat can hardly adapt to that speed. Moreover, I will think of the sonic boom cloud I saw when I crossed the speed of sound. Although AC didn't know how that thing was formed, but I know that it is absolutely impossible to achieve at ordinary speed. At least many times his full speed. Can you still bear it? Su Mo saw AC's face and asked. "Can?" Ace nodded immediately. She's not trying to be brave, but I really feel like I can adapt. After all, she has been using Wind Spirit Rush all year round and has considerable experience in the speed of explosive improvement. In addition, for the wings of wind that Su Mo just created on her body, it also surprised her. Although he knew that Su Mo was very strong, he became stronger very quickly. But this was the first time AC knew that Su Mo's accomplishments in wind element magic were actually so powerful. It is countless times more powerful than myself, who has been using wind magic all year round. It's easy to create such a flexible and fast usage. And it also takes into account Wind Spirit Speedy, its own comprehensive defense for the body. It is completely an extension of my Wind Spirit Walking skill. After realizing this, she understood why Su Mo had commented on her magic like that before. Flexible, but not flexible enough. Indeed, One's own magic is naturally very flexible compared to others. After all, magic that improves all aspects is very rare in Oreo. However, compared with Su Mo's method of use, it completely pales in comparison. At least for now, when it comes to flying, the method of using wind wings is to completely defeat the gliding intermittent flight of wind spirit speed. If you can master this flying method proficiently, in the future, she will become more mobile when dealing with monsters. Even when facing flying monsters, as long as she can master the wings of wind, she will be confident that she can catch up with them. And this wings of wind, it's just a magic trick that the other party taught to make it easier for him to travel. Ace didn't know how powerful magic would be if it were used for fighting. She only knows a little now. There is nothing wrong with your choice. Therefore, you must listen to teacher Su Mo in the future, and you must not be disliked by him or driven away by him. Otherwise, you will miss this biggest opportunity. For her who wanted to become stronger, this was unacceptable. Thinking of this, her expression became very serious. And at this time, the floor owner, who was watching eagerly from the side, also noticed the adventurer who came in front of him. Adventurers are the enemies of monsters. This is an unquestionable truth. Gaia let out the roar of a monster. The huge monster got into an attack stance. After noticing this, Ace immediately broke out in cold sweat. Because she didn't master the wings of wind, it was Su Mo who took her flying. She didn't know the specific floor where she descended. However, after feeling the tyrannical momentum of this huge monster, she immediately understood where it was. He also immediately understood the identity of the monster in front of him. Only a LV7 floor master could have such a desperate level of aura that made her, a LV5, have no chance of winning. However, having said that, she didn't feel really desperate. After finally getting teacher Su Mo to accept him, how could he die here? Holding the long sword in her hand tightly, Ace's fighting spirit ignited in her heart. Other side, Su Mo looked at the monster in front of him with an interesting expression. The king of the Furmore tribe, Baylor, 130 dropped materials, and Su Mo's level Bela, king of the Furmore tribe. This name may not be famous. However, in myths and legends, as well as various adapted stories, the legend of Baylor, the evil-eyed demon king, is widely circulated. Legend has it that Baylor has two eyes. One of them was kept tightly closed. His eyeballs could not be seen. And once this closed eye is opened, everyone within its visual range, whether it is a person or a god, will die immediately. In Celtic mythology and legend, during the Second War between the Danu Protoss and the deep sea giants Furmore, Baylor uses his magic eye to kill everything he sees, even including the former god king of the Danu Protoss, the silver-armed giant Nuada. Compared to Baylor itself, the news about his magic eye spread even more widely. The prototype of the Death Eye of the Moon World is also Baylor's Death Eye. Even among the gods, Baylor's status has always been very special because of his demonic eye that can kill even gods with a single glance. However, in Oreo were the gods gathered, but there is no god named Baylor. But in the dungeon, there is a LV7 monster named Baylor. Su Mo has always been curious about this. Gods and monsters are sometimes integrated in mythology, and sometimes they are distinguished. It is obvious that in the world of Dicuo, Barol is regarded as a monster, and it is just a LV7 monster. It should not have the original magic eye. Su Mo muttered, "What magic eye?" Ace beside him was a little confused. There is no Celtic mythology in her world. A skill that can attack with eyes. Su Mo explained casually. Then he immediately noticed. The eye of the floor master Barol in the distance flashed with an ominous red light. After feeling its energy fluctuations, Su Mo did not notice any danger. It seems that it should be just a low-profile version. His tone was slightly disappointed. If it is the original magic eye, if you are lucky, if the material drops, you may have a chance to get Barol's Death Eye. Unfortunately, it is not the original magic eye in the myth. However, he had expected this. A mere LV7 monster naturally cannot have the power to kill gods. According to Su Mo's estimation, It would be no problem for a monster of this level to destroy the mountain. However, this is the highest strength, let alone gods. It is inferior to ordinary divine beasts. Even if this monster has some magic eyes, it is probably a low-end version that even the magic resistance of the God Slayer cannot break. It really doesn't make much sense. So, there is no need to continue observing. Thinking of this, Su Mo no longer stayed. When he was about to step forward, AIC beside him took the lead and drew the long sword at his waist. Teacher Su Mo, I will test the enemy first. You come to formulate a strategy, according to the usual style of fighting with other teammates. She was ready to go and fight with the enemy, create opportunities for Su Mo, who is obviously stronger than herself. Let him take the opportunity to output and defeat the opponent. However, when AIC was about to muster up the courage to step forward, Su Mo grabbed the clothes at the back of her neck and pulled her back directly. Let's put the title of teacher aside for now. You don't need to take action against the monster in front of you. Didn't we agree before that your role is to be a supporter? Just pick up the magic stones. Huh? After hearing Su Mo's words, AIC was stunned. Chapter 139, Teacher, are you going to deal with this monster alone? This is a LV7 monster. Because it is a floor master, its power in all aspects is stronger than that of an ordinary LV7. How could a LV6 be able to deal with a monster of this level? Wait, thinking of this, AIC's pupil shrank suddenly. Could it be that Teacher Su Mo is not LV6, but has reached LV7? In other words, there are now two adventurers of the highest level in Oreo. Thinking of this possibility, she immediately opened her eyes wide and looked at Su Mo's actions. She wanted to use this to analyze whether Teacher Su Mo had reached the LV7 level. However, the next scene let AIC's calculations completely fail. Su Mo looked up and took a look at the huge monster. Then, he took a step forward, put his hands together. A magic circle appeared from him. It soon covered the entire open space. The huge magic circle completely enveloped the figure of the floor master Barol. Following the law of the goblins, Su Mo directly cast a spell. The merciless light instantly defeated the monster. After the light faded, the floor master Barol fell to the ground. It took no more than 10 seconds. Seeing this scene, Ace was completely confused. If fighting a LV7 floor master with equal strength and then defeating him with difficulty is the sign of a LV7 adventurer. Who can tell her? With one move, the floor master was killed in seconds. What level of adventurer is this? Is this really the combat power that a LV7 adventurer can have? If it weren't for a huge magic stone lying there a few dozen meters away, Ace even thought she was dreaming or seeing some illusion. Su Mo just showed an unparalleled strength. Compared to an adventurer, he is more like a god. Thinking of this, AIC couldn't help but hesitate and spoke. Teacher Su Mo, are you really a human? She looked at Su Mo, her pupils full of doubt. Of course. Su Mo glanced at her and immediately gave a positive answer. Perhaps in the future, there will be other races of him, such as God Su Mo and Demon Su Mo. However, as long as there is a world where he is a human, Su Mo's identity as a human is beyond doubt. Not to mention, Su Mo in all the current worlds has not deviated from the scope of human beings. 0. Please give flowers. 0. Hearing Su Mo's admission, Ace breathed a sigh of relief. Soon after, her eyes became hot. Human beings can actually become so strong. She felt that her worldview had been refreshed. It should be no problem if I show this level. After thinking for a while, Su Mo gave a responsible answer. It's just a LV7 monster that can be killed instantly. Whether in Oreo or in other worlds, it is far from reaching the level of the human outer demon realm. And in the world of Dicuo, the potential of human beings is not low at all. Great! Hearing Su Mo's affirmation, AIC clenched her fists excitedly. If one day I can become so powerful, maybe even my father can be surpassed, and my long-cherished wish to become stronger. Just when she was filled with emotion, Su Mo's voice sounded again. Why are you standing there in a daze? Do you still need me to help you with your job? The ruthless urging from the boss. AIC's thoughts were interrupted directly. She came to her senses, and a breeze blew around her. She jumped lightly and turned into a residual image, running to the magic stone dropped by the floor master in the distance. After putting the huge magic stone into the equally huge package that Lavilia handed to her before leaving, AIC found that in addition to the magic stone, there was a shiny thing on the ground. Is this drop material? She picked up this shiny thing that was less than the size of her fist. AIC immediately ran to Su Mo and handed it over. Teacher, there are drop materials. Is this a crystal? Su Mo was a little surprised when he saw what AIC picked up. This is a transparent crystal with hundreds of facets, like a diamond ball. The whole body is shining with deep red brilliance. The color is very similar to the brilliance emitted by the monster's magic eye before. The material of Barol's death eye. Su Mo couldn't figure out how to use this thing. But one thing is certain, this thing must be related to Barol's death eye. Maybe it could be used as a wand? AIC on the side speculated curiously. She looked at the magicians such as Lafia and Lavilia, and it seemed that there were also such things on their wands. A wand that specifically emits death rays? Avada is eating a big melon? Su Mo complained. What is that? AIC was a little confused and didn't quite understand what it meant. Nothing, my topic. Su Mo didn't intend to explain in detail. Anyway, it's just a monster of this level, and it's probably not going to produce good stuff like the mystic eyes of death, so it's probably useless. Su Mo was very sure of this. So, he didn't care too much about this item. After thinking about it, he put the item away. Then, he took AIC with him and continued to go deeper into the underground layer. 131 The work of the supporter. The task of the master after crossing the 49th floor of the dungeon. The level of the monsters has also reached LV5. If the previous floor was a situation where LV5 could barely cope with it if they were careful, then this floor, even LV5 adventurers may be in danger of life at any time. If you are not careful, you may die here. Multiple LV5 monsters are not something that a single LV5 can easily deal with. Although AIC had arrived at this floor during the expedition, but at this moment, she and Su Mo came here, and she was still a little nervous. Luckily, Su Mo was in front of her, which made her feel a lot more at ease. The two continued to move forward at the speed of sound. Not long after, they reached the 57th floor, although it was okay to go deeper. But after weighing it, Su Mo thought that this depth had temporarily reached its limit. This limit, of course, does not refer to Su Mo's limit. It refers to the limit that AIC can bear. With AIC's current strength, even if she does not use her hidden skills, fighting one-on-one with an LV6 monster is not completely without a chance of winning. Chapter 140, but even so, it may not be possible to completely protect oneself in the trend of LV5 level monsters. One-on-one combat and one-to-many combat are completely different concepts. Su Mo had no intention of letting AC fight, however, as a tool to attract monsters. Now this floor suits her perfectly. Let's talk about deeper floors later when her strength improves. Anyway, even at this depth, with AC as a tool, Su Mo can collect magic stones faster and more easily than if he dived into the depths alone. After landing from the air, the wings of the storm behind Su Mo dispersed. Turning to look at Ace. Do you know the specific work of the supporter? He asked the blonde girl. Carrying magic stones, carrying heavy loads, doing odd jobs, helping adventurers pay attention to their surroundings. Ace thought for a moment and answered based on common sense. Within the Loki Familia, supporters basically do the same thing. However, what she didn't expect was, this standard answer was rejected by the other party. No, not enough. Su Mo shook his head. There's a lot for supporters to learn. Cooking food, giving massages and making tea, building tents, making beds and quilts, attracting monsters, dealing with some miscellaneous fish-level monsters, and learning to sing to soothe the master's mood when necessary. Be cute when you should be cute, and keep secrets where you should be. Because we are in a dungeon, skills such as driving and bed warming are not required to be mastered, but it is better to be more proficient in other aspects. Hearing Su Mo's series of words, Ace was stunned. Huh. Supporters, Do you really have to do so many things? Do you still need to master so many skills? Why didn't she know this before? And soothes the master, S mood. This word doesn't seem to be describing a supporter, but a maid, right? Moreover, even to describe the maid's work skills, this number is too high. Thinking of this, Acey's eyes became uneasy. Don't think that just because she doesn't like to talk and looks dull, she is a fool. Ace thought she should be pretty smart. She still knew the difference between a maid and a supporter. She still has this common sense. Riveria also taught her when she was a child. So, after gathering her courage, Ace was about to question. At this time, Su Mo saw that she had not answered for a long time, so he turned his head and asked, "What? Can't you do it?" Hear this. Ace calmed down instantly. She remembered her purpose. I want to become stronger. Therefore, there seems to be no difference whether you serve as a supporter or a maid. No matter which one, as long as it doesn't touch her bottom line. It's just a mission from Su Mo. Therefore, there is no need for me to worry about whether these tasks are the work of a supporter or a maid. As long as he can stay by Su Mo's side and get a way to become stronger. That's all. Thinking of this, Ace nodded immediately. I will try my best. She is confident in attracting monsters, fighting, etc. Massage and tea, make the bed and quilt and sing. She has little experience. Therefore, we still need to strengthen our study in this aspect. I can only try hard. Very good. Su Mo was very satisfied with Acey's attitude. If you have this drive, you will be able to become a qualified supporter sooner or later. Although, this so-called supporter is Su Mo's subjective limited fusion of Pro, Plus, and Plus versions. After Acey nodded in agreement, Su Mo didn't waste any time. Let her go to lure the monster immediately. With Ace's current agility, level 5 monsters, even if they gather in piles, should not be able to harm her. Yes, after Ace received the mission, she immediately drew the sword from her waist. Tempest, after calling out the magic, Wind Spirit Rush, to wrap itself. She began to try to use the wind element control method that Su Mo had taught her before. Soon, behind Ace, a pair of simple wind wings appeared. Her maneuverability was immediately greatly improved. The wings of the wind flapped quietly. Acey carried the strong wind and immediately ran towards the monster not far ahead. After leaving a scar on the monster's body and successfully attracting hatred, Acey doesn't stop anymore. The person was in the air, and the wings of wind just turned slightly and took her to the next monster. Then, he repeated the same trick again, leaving a scar on the next monster and irritating it. With the help of the flexibility of the wind wings, Acey was very light and smooth. Within a few minutes, he attracted nearly 100 LV5 monsters chasing him. This amount is already the limit of what she can currently achieve. If there are any more, there is a chance that they will be overwhelmed by the monster tide. So, after reaching the limit, Acey immediately reacted. According to the previous agreement, the monster was led to Su Mo. As for Su Mo looking at the rushing tide of monsters, he smiled with satisfaction. Sure enough, it's different with a tool man. It's much easier than if he did it himself. Teacher Su Mo. A light landing. AIC removed the breeze around her body and stood behind Su Mo Zero. Looking at the tide of monsters rushing behind her, she was a little frightened. Even with her strength, this is definitely a monster that is difficult to deal with. However, behind Su Mo, she didn't worry. He can kill LV7 monsters in one move, so it's easy for him to deal with these monsters. And the reality is exactly what she thought. Looking at the tide of monsters in front of him, Su Mo just clapped his hands. The Law of the Goblins. The familiar bright light flashed by. After the light faded, there were magic stones all over the ground. Seeing these magic stones, AIC finally understood why Su Mo wanted to find a supporter. It takes time to clean up such a large area of magic stones. However, this is also the time to show her value. So, AIC is not lazy. Before Su Mo had time to give orders, she went ahead and collected all the magic stones. After being liberated, Su Mo was completely free. Watching AIC busying around, he sat on a stone, leisurely looking at the Philosopher's Stone in his hand, thinking about the next plan. Wait until AIC has collected all the magic stones. The next round of harvest. Chapter 141, it started again. Repeating old tricks. The wings of wind behind Ace fluttered. Fly to a place not far away and once again draw the monster's hatred. And it didn't take long. Just another bunch of monsters were attracted to her. The bright light lights up again and again. Wave after wave of monsters were attracted by AC. Then, there were piles of magic stones left behind, stacked into the shape of a hill. Probably when the sixth wave is attracted. The time required for Ace began to increase significantly. It seems that this layer, which is relatively rich in monsters, has been attracted. There are only some remote and hard-to-find lone monsters left scattered around. It started to be a little difficult to get enough for one wave. But, in the process of constantly attracting monsters, AC's control over the wings of wind has also become much stronger in 3.0, although she is still not up to the level that Su Mo demonstrated before. However, the flexibility has been greatly increased compared to before. To say it was earth-shaking might be an exaggeration. However, in terms of dexterity and dodge, Ace felt that she was indeed completely different from before. Therefore, the speed of constantly searching for monsters has also been improved. Although it took a little more time, but in the end, Su Mo didn't have to wait too long. Then the seventh wave of monsters was attracted. After the last wave of monsters were wiped out by Su Mo AI, C asked Su Mo for instructions, saying that she needed to rest for some time. Although she is a swordsman, the magic power in her body is no worse than that of a magician. However, even if it is so, it is difficult to bear such long-lasting and high-intensity magic use. At this point, she has reached her limit. Of course, Su Mo would not disagree. Even screws need maintenance. Tool people naturally need to rest. Although he sometimes behaves like a black-hearted capitalist, Su Mo is not stupid enough to tire out an excellent tool like AC and put her in danger. Taking the path of sustainable development is the right path. 132 The power to protect the contract and the refinement of the Philosopher's Stone. Ace is resting and recovering her magic power. Su Mo circled around the hill like magic stone. So many magic stones gathered together. The existing packages simply cannot fit. Not to mention taking it out of the dungeon. It will definitely cause a massive sensation. Now Su Mo is not so afraid of exposing himself. After all, the strength lies here. However, it would be better to have less unnecessary trouble. Moreover, when he chose Ace, a natural idiot, as a supporter, he had no intention of keeping her too secretive. However, the instructions and measures that should be taken are still indispensable. As mentioned before, as a supporter, you must learn to keep secrets when necessary. Su Mo looked at Ace. Do you still remember this? Remember, Ace nodded. Even if Su Mo didn't mention it, she still knew to keep it a secret. The way to become stronger is the secret of every adventurer. AC was very grateful to Su Mo for agreeing to this matter. Naturally, it is impossible and will not reveal Su Mo's secret. But she felt a little strange that Su Mo mentioned this at this time. Along the way, whether it was the super powerful wind magic displayed by Su Mo or the super powerful killing magic. Shouldn't everything be top secret among top secrets? If we want to talk about confidential matters, shouldn't we have brought it up long ago? Why are you talking about this now, almost at the end? Su Mo didn't notice AC's doubts. 05 after seeing her nod. Su Mo took a step forward and immediately took the soft little hand of the blonde swordswoman. This is definitely not taking advantage. Perhaps. Just remember. Su Mo nodded, grabbed AC's hand, and then said with a slightly serious tone, "Then let's make a contract. What happens next must be kept absolutely confidential without my permission. Those who violate the contract will be punished by the wild boar." Words like a child playing house. Su Mo said it in a slightly serious tone. If anyone saw it, they would definitely laugh. You would think he was teasing a little girl. However, AC sensed an incredible binding force from the connection between their palms. She recognized it immediately. This word has a very powerful binding meaning. If you agree to this contract and then really violate it, you will definitely be punished. Although I don't know what the punishment of the wild boar is, it is definitely not an ordinary wild boar. After realizing this, Ace had no intention of breaking the contract in the first place. No hesitation at all. Not immediately. Good. After saying this, she felt that the contract seemed to be officially established. There was some inexplicable connection between her and Su Mo. Naturally, Ace, who had no intention of leaking the secret, didn't care much about this. Only, her cheeks were slightly red. He showed a rare expression of embarrassment and looked at Su Mo shyly. "Teacher, is it okay now?" She lowered her eyes slightly. Her eyes focused on her wrists with Su Mo's interlocked fingers. The warmth of the palms, strange and familiar. It's just a little bit too close. Now, she is still full of thoughts about becoming stronger. She has not yet opened up to the relationship between men and women. The reason why she blushed is because of this contract signing posture. Why are they so close? The intimate posture of interlocking fingers. She has never done it since she left her mother. Although Su Mo is her master, but he is also a man after all, and she feels uncomfortable with such close contact with a man rashly. After hearing what AIC said, Su Mo noticed the posture of the two. With a serious face, he slowly withdrew his hand. This is a necessary posture to conclude a contract, limited to beautiful girls. It's okay. He thought he knew AIC well enough. Su Mo believed that she would definitely keep it secret. However, trust is one thing, and restraint is another. You can never have too much insurance. So, he still used the power of authority to draw up a contract with Ace. The contract, just now, was the power usurped from the power of the Zoroastrian military god Velislana, god of war in the East. Among them, it is a flexible use of the incarnation of the mythical beast Wild Boar. Chapter 142 Velislana is the protector of Mithras, the god of light. And Mithras is the god of light and contract, the incarnation of the white horse and power, Eastern god of war, the white horse carrying the flame of the sun. It is the embodiment of Velesh Rana as a protector and protector of light, and the embodiment of a violent and irritable wild boar. It is the embodiment of Velislana as the protector and guardian of the contract. Harness the power of this incarnation. It allows Su Mo to add the power of authority as a guarantee when making contracts with others. This contract will be bound by authority. If someone violates this contract, he will not only be punished by the divine beast Wild Boar, it will also be added with special attack by the mythical beast Wild Boar, and the damage will be greatly increased. It can be said that this is a skill that is quite effective even against gods and god-killers. Although on AC it is probably useless, but being prepared for danger and keeping a guard up are the basic rules of conduct for Lao Inbi. After the contract is formally concluded, Su Mo naturally felt more at ease with AC. He immediately started to prepare to convert the many hills-like magic stones in front of him into the Philosopher's Stone. As for Ace, after the contract is formally concluded, she didn't care about the punishment of the contract itself, but he was very concerned about what Su Mo was going to do. Content of previous contracts. It was only agreed that the rest of the matter would be kept confidential. That is to say, things ahead. Whether it's the superb magical power of the wind element. It was a super magic that instantly killed the LV7 level 4 master with one move. It doesn't even count. That is to say, in Su Mo's view, those were not matters that needed to be kept secret. Compared with these things, the following things need to be kept secret. This made Ace very curious about what happened next. Something happened. Is it more important than killing the LV7 floor master in one move? Under her curious eyes, Su Mo clasped his hands together. This time, the bright light attribute magic from before was not activated. I saw a dark red light that lit up like lightning. In front of him was a huge hill-like pile of magic stones. All disappeared in the blink of an eye. And in Su Mo's hands, a red, transparent crystal about the size of a goblin's skull appeared. Seeing this scene, AC blinked. "Teacher, what is this?" This was the first time she knew that magic stones could turn into such beautiful stones. It's just that this red stone is so beautiful. But you can't see anything else unusual? Why does this need to be kept secret? What about the previous super powerful light attribute magic that didn't need to be kept secret? Ace was very confused. Heard her question. Su Mo glanced at her. Now AC has signed a contract. Even if the gods ask her to reveal her secrets, she will never reveal them. Is a trustworthy object. Therefore, there is no need to hide it. You may have heard of this thing. He threw the red crystal in his hand in the air. Su Mo replied casually. The Philosopher's Stone, I remember people calling it that. Acey's eyes widened instantly. Even she had heard of the legend of the Philosopher's Stone. This is a universal elixir that can make people immortal and turn stone into gold. Even the legendary Great Sage has to try his luck to occasionally refine precious items. Moreover, the Philosopher's Stone in the legend is only as small as a fingernail. However, Su Mo has this red crystal in his hand. It's obviously the size of a goblin's skull. Such a large amount of Philosopher's Stone was refined in front of him. If according to the legendary value, a Philosopher's Stone of this size might be enough to buy the entire Oreo. After realizing this, only then did AC finally understand why Su Mo had to emphasize confidentiality here. Indeed, this is one that only leaks out. There is a treasure that may stir up the situation in the world. And this treasure was made on site by Su Mo. That is to say, if he wanted to, it can even produce and purchase world-level Philosopher's Stones. This kind of power is completely enough to influence the situation of the world. Not even the gods can contain it. Asking herself, Ace felt that if she encountered a secret of this level, it will definitely be buried deep in my heart, and I will never tell the second person. As for Teacher Su Mo, he only needed to sign the contract and tell himself. Suddenly, AC was completely moved by this trust. Teacher, I will definitely keep your secret, she swore seriously. Su Mo nodded casually. He didn't think much of it. The reason why AC is not prepared to keep it secret is just because it is more convenient, so as not to have to run around carrying magic stones. As for trusting AC and so on, that's because the blonde girl has too much imagination, based on his understanding of AC and the constraints of power. Not to mention that it was impossible for Ace to reveal the secret. Even if she wanted to tell others, she would never have the chance. There was no possibility at all. The power of authority itself might not be absolute. After all, the use of power also depends on the object. However, the restraint of authority is an absolute restraint for a weak person like her who has not even reached the realm of divine beasts. It is precisely because of these two reasons that he trusts the other party so much. 133 magic replenishment and the challenge of being an adventurer. AC only knew that the Philosopher's Stone was a very precious item. It could turn stones into gold, make people immortal, etc. But she didn't know that this thing had various other uses. She didn't even know that this thing could help people become stronger. So, after the initial surprise, she calmed down quickly. Then, she followed Su Mo. They entered the next level together, the 58th level. They started to kill monsters again, although she rested for dozens of minutes. But the magic power in her body had not recovered so quickly. Fortunately, Su Mo had a special magic replenishment technique. Don't get me wrong, it's not the weird kind of mana replenishment. It's the serious kind. After consuming a hair's worth of Philosopher's Stone, it immediately restored AC's health and mana to full. Chapter 143, Let her be very grateful to Su Mo. A tool man who can assist Su Mo and obtain a large number of Philosopher's Stones. But he only needs a Philosopher's Stone, which is less than a hair, to restore his physical strength and magic power, and he can happily continue to work for Su Mo. In addition, he does not need any salary. He will also be very grateful to Su Mo. Such a useful labor force can simply make other capitalists envious and jealous. After entering the next level, there are many more flying monsters. But for AIC, who is now proficient in using the wings of wind, it is nothing. Soon, she attracted the next wave of monsters. Fly towards Su Mo, then leave a ground of magic stones. This happened several times. Finally, the group of monsters on this level were almost consumed. The magic stones in front of Su Mo also accumulated a small hill that was slightly larger than the previous level. Just as AIC attracted the last wave of monsters. After flying over, Su Mo was preparing to easily solve the monster tide as before. At this time, C spoke to him hesitantly. Teacher Su Mo, can you let me take care of the enemies this time? She looked at Su Mo with a pleading look. Su Mo was a little surprised. You want to deal with this wave of monsters alone? Nearly 100 LV5 monsters gathered together. The difficulty of defeating such an enemy is no less than defeating a LV6 floor master. To some extent, the difficulty is even higher than this. Even if AIC has learned the Wings of Wind, it is quite difficult to deal with this number of monsters. Of course, since it is a difficult thing, it will definitely be a great achievement after crossing it. If she can really do this, the accumulated great achievements may be more abundant than defeating a LV6 floor master. Hearing Sumo's confirmation-like inquiry, AIC nodded firmly. I want to try it. She thinks she can do it. After such a long period of training, she is no longer the same as before. If it was her before, she would definitely not be able to deal with it. But now, she has the confidence. Want to try? Su Mo would not refuse. Then go and try. Anyway, this is the last wave of monsters, and we can call it a day after defeating them. If AIC is willing to help, he will not refuse. Thank you, teacher. After hearing the affirmative answer, AIC immediately became happy. She drew out her sword and was about to go to meet the enemy. At this time, Su Mo behind her reminded her casually, wind magic is more suitable for dodging than defense. And the key to dodging is to grasp the direction of the wind. Just remember this. After saying that, Su Mo said no more. AIC remembered these words deeply in her heart, and then rushed out directly. The wings behind her are no longer as simple as when they were first used. Instead, they are somewhat close to the beautiful shape when Su Mo taught. Like a dancing elf, the golden-haired sword girl plunged directly into the monster. After dodging several attacks sideways, the rapier pierced a monster's head cleanly. It took the life of a LV5 monster. Then, before she was surrounded, the wind wings flashed, allowing her to escape from the monster tide. In this way, with this kite-flying style, AC quickly dealt with 5 or 6 monsters. But after that, it gradually became more difficult. LV5 monsters are not as fragile as ordinary mountain wolves and beasts. It is difficult to cause enough damage without stabbing the vital points. Moreover, many of these monsters have some long-range attack skills. Whether it is wind blades, ice arrows, venom, spider webs, they are all things that must be avoided. If she is hit by them accidentally, even she will find it difficult. It can be said that fighting a monster tide alone is like dancing on a high-voltage line. If you are not careful, you may put yourself in a fatal risk. Enemy attacks may come at any time from the front, back, left, right, and even on the wall. In this high-pressure environment, dodging is particularly important. This is not Che Wan's barrage game. There are judgment points and no saving and restarting. Although the density of the barrage is far less than Che Wan's barrage, but it is also beyond the range of what ordinary people can handle. In this environment, AIC's spirit became highly tense. In her mind, Su Mo's previous words also emerged. Grasp the direction of the wind. Calm down. She decided to believe Su Mo's teachings. Begin to silently feel the small wind flow that she didn't pay much attention to at ordinary times. At this moment, a fatal ice blade attacked her vest. As she followed her previous habits, either increase the intensity of the wind around her body to bounce off the ice blade, or turn sideways and block it with a rapier. However, after listening to Su Mo's teachings, she did feel the subtle flow when the ice blade broke through the air. If it is in this direction, the wind wings behind AIC flapped, the body slightly sideways. Then, the breeze on the left side of the body also changes its trajectory and blows outward. So, a two-pronged approach. The ice blade behind her was easily dodged without any unnecessary movement. And during this time, her rapier was already swinging out with an invisible thrust. Killed 2 monsters. Compared with his original actions, the efficiency of killing monsters has been greatly improved with his current approach. After realizing this, Ace's eyes lit up. Continue trying to avoid attacks according to the direction of the wind. Then focus on attacking yourself. Really, There is no need to forcefully withstand and block attacks. AC's flexibility has been further developed. Step skills are more flexible than before. Just 10 minutes. More than 20 monsters were eliminated again. As she became more proficient, she became more comfortable dodging monster attacks. You don't even have to pay attention to your surroundings at all. The direction and speed of the attack can be initially determined based on the direction of the wind alone. All kinds of attacks pass by her, or it can't be attacked at all, or be led astray by the air current around her. Chapter 144, almost impossible to get close to. 20 minutes later, looking at the remains of magic stones all over the ground. Ace stopped where she was, her slender hands holding the sword, trembling slightly. Did I do all of this by myself? Seeing the scene in front of her, she looked a little dazed. Want to try it though? But she didn't expect that either. He was actually able to deal with this entire wave of monsters so cleanly. Except for the very beginning, when I used Wind Spirit Sprint to resist a few attacks, I was basically unscathed throughout the whole process. Until she solved the last monster, she just felt tired, but it didn't feel too dangerous. Before, it seemed like an almost impossible task. At this moment, it was successfully achieved without much effort. Make her feel incredible. When did I actually become so much stronger? After asking myself this in my mind, AC turned her eyes to Su Mo. It was after meeting teacher Su Mo. In just one day, she felt the change in her strength, even more than a year of hard work. What kind of power can a powerful teacher, one who has money, have? Now AC understands this. She couldn't help but feel grateful for her previous decision. Fortunately, I discovered teacher Su Mo. Fortunately, I agreed to teacher Su Mo's request. Fortunately, teacher Su Mo gave me a chance. Otherwise, it would be absolutely impossible for her to achieve the current rate of progress. Well done! After seeing AC understand the content of his teaching so quickly, Su Mo was not shy about praising each other. He was able to learn to judge the direction of the wind so quickly and dodge, and he is self-taught, using airflow to actively deflect other attacks. This talent is worthy of her reputation as a genius. Although, the understanding of the concept of wind element. Now AC is still in the entry-level stage. But this learning speed is amazing enough. If the training continues, AC's strength may reach a level that others can hardly imagine. It is not difficult to surpass Oda and her father. Thank you, teacher. Aikido was praised by Su Mo. Like a child who is praised by his parents, he immediately smiled happily. Compared with the natural look before, maybe now is the true expression of her inner feelings. 134 The Loki Familia are shocked. That adult is actually LV7? When AC was cleaning up the final battlefield and gathering the last pile of magic stones. Slightly above, the main force of the Loki Familia finally reached the 48th floor. Command your companions to clean up the monsters along the way. Finn, the leader of the Loki Familia, looked a little confused. Why was there no sign of AC or Mr. Su Mo along the way? The two said they wanted to go in-depth experience. This is already deep enough. The next floor up, the 49th floor, has a floor master of level LV7. There is no way Ace and the others can go down. The deepest floor they can reach is probably the 48th floor. However, they have cleared this road and have not noticed any movement between the two of them, nor have they encountered any signs of fighting. This was completely unexpected by Finn. After hearing his words, everyone in Loki's family also showed worried expressions. Leafy bit her lip and guessed. Could it be that Miss Ace and the others are on the front floor, and we missed it? In fact, she knew that this possibility was not high. But compared to the worst possibility, she would rather believe that it would be like this. Reveria shook her head and completely stopped thinking about Lafia. The number of monsters on the floors we passed before has not changed as usual. They should not be there. So what exactly? Lafia's face froze, her expression unable to conceal her anxiety. With AC strength, even if there is only one person, if he encounters a wave of LV 4-level monsters on the 48th floor, even if you are defeated, you can definitely escape. Therefore, they will definitely not have any trouble here. But no sign or footprints of them were found along the way, and it was indeed 280 true. If this is the case, there is only one possibility. but she didn't want to say it. After all, that possibility is too dangerous. But at this time, Tiona, who was so careless, did not pay attention to the subtle expressions of everyone. But he said with excitement, "Maybe AC-chan and Mr. Su Mo will challenge the LV7 floor master together." Being an optimist, she never thought about the tragic consequences that might result from a LV5 and a LV6 adventurer challenging a LV7 floor master. "I just subconsciously feel very passionate." So, she suggested, "Let's go down to the next level and have a look. Maybe we can help." Aside, Tiona's sister, Tioni, looked at her happy sister with a dark face. "Help a hammer." They were at least an hour late. If those two people really challenged the floor master, they could only collect the bodies. However, such unlucky words could not be said. So, Tioni just clenched his fist and punched Tiona on the head. "If you can't speak, shut up." "Sister, why did you hit me?" Tiona looked at Tioni, who attacked her in confusion. Her eyes were a little aggrieved. "I didn't say anything wrong." "You idiot." Tioni covered her forehead and prepared to punch again. Tiona took a vigilant posture. "Don't think I won't fight back. Even if she is a sister, you can't hit her like this." Just when the two of them were quarreling, Finn spoke. "Tiona is right. It's useless to worry blindly. After, let's go to the 49th floor to take a look." Hearing his decision, the others had no objection. Lavilia and Grace's steps were also much faster. They were all a little worried. If those two people really went to the 49th floor, what if something unexpected really happened? That was a monster of LV7 strength. They never thought that those two people could defeat the floor master. Lavilia just prayed, "I hope that these two people just went in. In this way, even if they are defeated, they can wait for their help. Otherwise, it will be really dangerous." With a nervous mood, the group quickened their pace. Even the carefree Diana noticed that the atmosphere was wrong and stopped talking. Just like that. Soon, they arrived at the 49th floor, the location of the floor master. Chapter 145. With a nervous and apprehensive attitude, Finn, Riveria, and Grace walked at the front of the team. Werewolf Bert, Tiona, and Tioni were at LV5 and scattered around to search. "Where's the monster?" After arriving at the clearing where the monster is, Finn was completely stunned. Looking at the empty space in front of him, he couldn't come back to his senses. "Where are the monsters? What about such a big monster that should be in the middle?" Report to the leader. Nothing was found nearby. After completing the investigation, Tiona ran back to report the situation. Soon, Bert and Tioni also came over. "We also found no traces of monsters or Ace." The two of them also shook their heads. Finn couldn't help but bite his thumb. There have been no other large-scale expeditions recently. However, the floor owner is no longer here, and AC and Mr. Su Mo are nowhere to be found. Could it be? Suddenly, he had a bold guess in his mind. Riveria and others on the side also thought of this. The three giants of the Loki family looked at each other. They all saw the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. "What's wrong?" Tiona looked curiously at Finn, who was only halfway speaking. Then he looked at the other three people suspiciously. "Stop being so secretive. Leader, tell us now," she begged curiously. "The only possibility is Dash." Riveria forced herself to keep a calm tone. Several people's guesses were stated. Mr. Su Mo broke through the floor master of this floor and took Ace to the deeper levels. "Oh, I broke through the floor master." Tiona nodded. It took him a few seconds to react. "What?" Boss Su Mo broke through the floor master on the 49th floor? Defeated LV7? She suddenly screamed in disbelief. And other people on the side, after hearing Riveria's words, he immediately realized this. The members of the Loki familia present were all stunned. After a long time, the werewolf Bert said in a bitter tone, "Be able to kill the LV7 level floor master alone. At least the LV7 level adventurer. That is to say, it is the same level as the strongest Oreo now. If we say LV6 level adventurer, if he works hard, it's still possible to catch up. An adventurer at level 7 is simply not a level that can be achieved through hard work. There is only one LV7 in Oreo as a whole. Reaching this level cannot be achieved through hard work and hard work alone. LV7." After hearing the grade from Bert's mouth, even the three giants of the Loki familia couldn't help but stop breathing. Even for them who have reached the LV6 level a long time ago, this is a level that they may not be able to reach in their lifetime. But the man named Su Mo has reached this level at such a young age. His talent is even far above that of the Fierce Oda. Only then did they understand. In the beginning, where did Ace's obsession with Su Mo come from? At such an age, one can aspire to be the strongest. Not to mention Ace, even they were envious of such a speed of becoming stronger. No wonder Mr. Su Mo said before that he didn't intend to let Ace take action. Only then did Riveria understand the meaning of Su Mo's words. I originally thought Mr. Su Mo was too trusting, so he let Ace serve as a supporter. Now it seems that with Ace's strength, I am afraid she can only serve as a supporter. Although LV5...
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.